Hello everyone and welcome to another TeamBN stream. This week we're doing another world record analysis and this one is fresh. TeamBN6 runners last weekend did a race and last had a really good run. Possibly the best ever. And so a few of the racers, last of course, Risch and Erothaur, are going to be rewatching that run and talking about the strats that make up the new Mega Man Battle Network 6 Cybeast Gregar world record. Last, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Super excited to go back over this run. I've been holding off doing it on my own so I can do it with you all. It's gonna be fun.
Cool. We also have Risch. How you doing?
I'm doing good. As Tara mentioned, I was one of those in the race at the time that last got this run. It was actually a relatively decently sized race. It was pretty interesting. Last always gets really good runs in races, it seems, where he's on world record pace, and then usually some bad RNG happens at the end, and he's unable to finish it out. But surprisingly, this time he was able to actually get world record in the middle of a race, which is pretty sick. So, looking forward to going over this race, or this not race run, in full time rather than on the side while I'm trying to play the game myself.
And we also have Erothaur. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm Erothaur. I used to run BN6. I haven't in a while. I'm like number 10 or so on the leaderboard now. But I'm very interested to see this run. I caught the very end of the race, and I kind of popped into Risch's chat, and I was like, hey, did you win? And he was like, well, you know, this last got were.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. Erothaur. Well, let's see. Forte Base Deluxe 27 was the I think original Battle Network 6 runner, and then Erothaur came in and pushed it down. It's like, yeah, sub 3 is totally possible. And then Last shows up while we're at an event and beats Erothaur's time like 2 or 3 times in a row. And then they went back and forth a bit. I eventually took the record for one once. And then retired immediately. And then Risch comes in out of nowhere and just destroys it. And that's where it's sat for a long time until now. Last took the record back again with a what was your time? Or do you want to wait to the end?
Final time was 2:10:25.
2:10. It's so close. Do you think sub 2:10 is possible?
Spoilers. I might have screwed up a couple times that were easily over 30 seconds of time loss.
That's crazy. Alright, well, I think that is good. So let's see. Last is running the stream. Risch, would you care to do the countdown and we'll start the video and the timer? Risch?
Me? How do I do anything? I don't have access to OBS.
No, I said.
I need to do a
the
countdown.
countdown.
My bad.
Yeah,
I was reading chat. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that. We'll begin on go. 3, 2, 1, go. Normally, I would give a classic Jameek countdown as we probably started this race off with, but no.
Good luck past
Past
AAOA.
last.
Past last.
Yeah, maybe he'll do better than I remember.
Oh. Also, just a little bit of extra background. When I first started running BN6, Erothaur had actually retaken world record from Terra, and Erothaur had gotten the first sub 220. And it was a classic example of, oh yeah, I think there can be another 2 minutes shaved off of this, which has been the theme for the past 2 years of, yeah, I think we can save another 2 minutes. And at this point, we now have the ability to get a sub 210.
At this point, I think we could save exactly 2 more minutes, and then the game's dead.
Pretty much.
Yes. It's starting to get real hard to find time save.
Yeah.
Minor thing, if you want to save all of the frames, the TAS actually is able to do that fight, the first tutorial fight, where you stand in the middle row and you press A twice. It is frames faster. However, you run the risk of missing a cannon and resetting a minute and a half in. So that's why Last avoids doing it.
Especially in a race scenario like this one. I did go out of my way to take more conservative, average, faster strats because it's a race and I don't want bad things to happen.
And because of the good pace Last was on, he was already ahead, which meant that, like, obviously until about, I think, Heat Cross, it wasn't on his mind of getting world record. It was on his mind to win the race. So he was doing things to make sure he was staying ahead. Erothaur, do you know what the task time was? Okay, thank you for answering. This folder edit is kind of interesting. So what Last just did is he put a chip, Crackshot, in the top 4. We've talked about it many times in different TeamBN streams that chips at the top of your folder are more likely to be drawn first. So he actually moves a Crackshot into the top 4 because Crackshot is a really good chip, 60 damage, star-coded, that will now be in the top 4, more likely to be drawn, and then also is able to reg a Crackshot, which is really strong coming up because he needs to get a reflector for the door.
I know you had been thinking about doing that for a while. I kind of like it.
The other nice perk to it is we reg Crackshots later on in the run, for example before the Dive Man fight, and if you remember you have a Crackshot at the top of your folder, it's faster to reg there than going down to the lower one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go on record and say that this is called slot stacking because I was already using folder stacking in a different sense. So
Is that the phrase that we're now using for it?
that's what I'm using.
And so this fight was really good. This fight was really good. By making sure he's not moving more than twice, getting 2 counter hits. In BN6, counter hits actually increase your rank unlike other games. But he gets a Mach-Gun 1A. Mach-Gun 1A is a really powerful chip early on. And if I'm not mistaken, you actually get to see it used for once. We always talk about it during BN6 runs, but it's still like a very small chance to be drawn. But you will see it actually be used.
I got to do the no skill approach to counter hitting the gunner as well because I drew Vulcan, so you just press A and it counter hits him and he doesn't hit you back. It's wonderful.
Yep. But yeah, I know that Tara, you had we've had many discussions on what it should be called when you're putting chips at the top of your folder because it's a type of folder stacking, but it's not the original term that was folder stacking, which is putting your chips in a specific order because you know you will draw them with RNG manipulation.
I guess we could do folder stacking and
We could call it folder suggesting.
It's a very confusing term because, like, stacking the deck is usually putting stuff at the top, but also maybe it's also definitely still putting stuff in expected spots so you get what you expect to get.
Yeah.
So like both of them make sense. This fight always goes the same way. Just use a sword, ideally, and get a counter hit for the crack shot.
Yep. They gave best pattern for sword as well, which is the top old stove moves forward, so you can counter hit him right away.
Mm-hmm. I'm impressed. Not a single talk to desk.
Did you watch the first time through how I got caught on the girl and mistalked to Mick multiple times?
No, I was not.
Good.
I did not. I missed that.
The start of races, we always like to meme about who talked to the most desks, so I go out of my way to not talk to them, but occasionally that leads to other problems.
Yeah, I think in this race we were making a joke about our RNG manipulation because 2 different people talked to 3 desks each. So we're talking about, oh yeah, that's definitely RNG manipulation, so they get train arrow later and they'll save the time back. because Train Arrow is also a story requirement.
I think the real question is who forgot to get in the Copybot?
I swear
Surprisingly, I don't think anyone did.
the RNG manipulation worked. Jameek talked to desks 3 times and ended up getting 3 train arrows. So I think it's just
Wow.
something we're going to have to incorporate into the any percent route going forward.
Was it Lurking that didn't get a Train Arrow? I know I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was you and Lurking. But I don't remember exactly.
One minor optimization that I would call out here, it is actually faster to hide behind that block there because the fire stops you in your tracks, but there is a slight delay between like when the fires stop and technically reset your step counter.
You can move like a relevant amount of frames faster
Yeah.
if you
So-
hide, but it's also really good for your step counter to hide.
Yeah.
And you did get an early encounter, so
There's only a few places that you can get away with hiding. Sometimes there's nothing. He got the 50% chance. At this point in Robo Control Comp, you only have a 50% chance to run away from encounters. Running away is strictly faster. So, like, for example, I always run. Sometimes Last doesn't. However, Last does have 2 chips at this point, and folder edits get really weird if you have more than 2 chips. I'm sure that's probably what was going on in your mind at the time.
I would have done the fight had I drawn chips to do it, but because I got Cannon A,
Yeah.
Cannon B, and some Alphabet Soup, we weren't going to be able to do that fight quickly.
with that draw, I think you run 100% of the time.
I agree.
Okay. I personally run it 100% of the time regardless. So, unless I got 1 chip, ran away in Central 2, and I see the ability to get a mock gun. That is the only exception.
Right there, I had some really crisp movement. It's possible to hide behind that block 1 out of the 4 times that the fire spawn actually goes the right way. And then you have to have very good movement around the corner to make it in time. And it saves probably half a second.
It was nice movement to get behind the block, and then he went the wrong way around the block and introduced way more horizontal movement than was necessary. But
You win some, you lose some.
But overall, yes, it does require very precise movement to be able to hide there. And with the routing that we're taking in Robo Control 1, this is one of the relatively newer strats, thanks to Prof. Actually, I'll talk about this folder edit first. Basically, he removes Cannon B first. That way, Mach Gun A goes to the top of the folder, more likely to be drawn. Then re-adds it, ends up at the bottom, and he also added a Reflector 1A. Gets regged. It's very strong for the next few fights. But yeah, so this routing actually makes it so that you usually don't get an encounter chance with good movement at all on the first trip through Robo Control 2. And you only have a 50% chance to get an encounter just before Blast Man. So it's actually really good. And now you get to see how
wow.
strong Mach Gun 1A is.
Dude, no way. Didn't put him in the middle though.
Yeah, I manipulated Blastman around slightly suboptimally here. It ended up probably being about as fast as if I had done another way. Thanks to the Vulcan draw.
The only better draw is if you get the attack plus 10 in the opening draw, because attack plus 10 with a Mach Gun with like, what is it, 4 charge shots? It's like 2 or 4 charge shots actually deletes him on its own.
Yes.
So that was a 1025 Blast Man. To put it in perspective, I think our golds are around like the 1020 mark.
Mine's 1013, but that was unusual.
Yeah. Yeah. So like
I
that,
think mine's 1021.
yeah, 1025 is incredibly fast.
One way I like to analyze splits when I'm trying to figure out where time save can be had is if you were to run through a split, just that split 10 times, how many of those 10 runs would this this run's split have beaten? And the answer is easily a 10 out of 10 here.
Yep.
I think.
This split's more like a 13 out of 10, I'd say.
No, yeah, this
10
this
out of
is
10 split for me is like 1040.
It's like, I think if you're actually doing world record attempts at this point, you almost want to get a 1030 Blast Man, which is incredible to say. But no, it was not. Oh, you're talking about the 1013?
The 1013 was exactly the same as this, except I also skipped the Central 1 encounter, and in the Robo 1 encounter I got Mach Gun. Or sorry, I skipped the Central 2 encounter.
Yeah,
said the right one.
I figured that's what you meant. So you got the exact same thing, but you skipped over an entire encounter, which saves 7 seconds. It's like I could say, the only improvement, as you said, would be to skip Central 2 and to draw attack plus 10. Those are the only 2 improvements I see on that split. Maybe some slightly better fires so that his movement is like frames faster, but
Yep. Unrealistically, you could also skip the Robo 1 encounter entirely, or you could get a battle mystery data with Tornado.
yeah. Or Boomer, but Tornado is faster for the Blast Man split.
Yep.
Boomer is faster for the run overall, I would say.
So already in this split, we've seen some good RNG, and that I didn't get the encounter on the way to buy the sub chips. That's about a 1 in 3 and saves you 8 seconds, because you don't need to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the talk to desk.
So that is the optimal movement to talk to that child there. I was talking to Last about this because I saw him talk to the desk while I was racing, and you were saying that you were trying to implement the optimal movement, but because you're not used to it, you always end up like talking to a desk because you're not sure when to press A to talk.
Yep. And if I am really cautious about the desk, I double talk to the kid. Which is worse, so I guess I'll take the desk.
So coming up is the Icebox fight. Ideally, you want to draw something like an attack plus 10 and a cannon A, or a crack shot. That is the optimal draw here, except for when you have a Boomer. Boomer is the perfect draw, but that's not an option here. So this draw is actually mediocre. It is able to deal damage such that now all of them are within charge shot range, but none of them are going to really, like, only 2 of them are going to actually be deleted. So a 2-turn fight here is not the worst. Last is having trouble with charge shots, apparently.
It'd been a little faster if you took Mach Gun.
Yes, Mach Gun also would have been faster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unlucky to have a 2-turn fight, I think. It's like 60% to get a 1-turn. And then that was about as slow a 2-turn as you can have. So definitely room for improvement.
Yeah, a really fast 2-turn isn't like super unusual.
Yeah. One of the key things is that the fishy, the piranha, has 70 health. So Reflector leaves them at 10 HP. If you manage to get the piranha to move down, the starfish only has 60 HP, so it just gets deleted instantly. And you get a free counter hit from reflecting the piranha. So you can then use that on, say, the pufferfish. However, the other unfortunate thing for Last is that he lost the 50-50 and the piranha moved up. So now every single virus is still alive at least 10-20 HP. I like it, Last. I like it.
Yeah,
Pausing to use the sneak run to save the turn frame.
By using the sneak run in that exact location, we save 1 frame because Mega Man doesn't need to stop moving and then restart moving to go around that corner. I just take that opportunity. Probably do it, I don't know, 5 times throughout the course of the run, which definitely doesn't matter.
Yep. So one smallish optimization that has also happened that saves literal frames is in the past, the first trip to Central 3, we used to grab a Reg Up 2 and copy damage, as well as the like graffiti key thing, whatever. However, because of the fact that there are Navis in your way on this trip, you save like 2 turn frames plus maybe some horizontal movement frames a little bit. If you grab copy damage on this trip instead. Again, little optimizations that save frames. They add up over time to maybe a second or 2, but they're also cool to talk about. So
here's the bathroom splits fight. We're hoping for anything that can kill that Metar and be taken with our reflector that we have regged. Unfortunately, I drew a sword.
you also messed this fight up
Yes.
quite a bit. Ideally, if you get a 2-turn draw like last did, you would want to keep the red Metar moving until you're then able to use the reflector to double delete. However, the fact that the red Metar attacked meant that he needed to force the blue one to attack as well.
And then get them to line back up. So we got the good RNG walking to the sub-chips vendor, but then we got back-to-back 2 turns. So at this point, we are probably losing time in this split, but at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to how the Seaside fights go.
Yep. This is the best, and in a optimal speedrun sense, the only chance to get Train Arrow. You're going to get anywhere from 1 to 4 encounters. Technically, you can get 0, but very unlikely. Most of the time, you get 1 or 2 encounters. Sometimes, you usually get 2 or 3 encounters. Sometimes you get 1. That's how I'll put it. And these have the chance to give you Train Arrow, or Train Arrow in general, which will be a story requirement, but also a very good ship for some boss fights.
This is an optimal opening encounter. We can use our reflectors to deal a bunch of damage and get some nice counter hit action to get a good rank. And because it's just double Piranha, we have a 50% chance to get our Train Arrow here. And unfortunately, I miss it.
It's a very good fight. That's the one that you want to be getting. There's 2 fights like that you can get in Seaside. And Last did some really good stuff in that fight that gave him a very good opportunity for a good rank as well, which would increase how strong the trainer actually is. And then he gets it here. See, with an S rank, you get a trainer
as well.
A. Yes.
But because of the bad fights, and actually the previous world record by address only got 1 encounter in Seaside and managed to get the Train Arrow, so I'm now behind world record by 11 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. He lost 26 seconds compared to the previous world record, and he lost almost 30 seconds to his own PB at this point. So that is probably the biggest one of the big time saves that you can get out of this run so far. Is just get better Train Arrow luck. Smile. Well, not Train Arrow luck, but better luck on the Seaside BBS as a split.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. You can actually get no encounters in Seaside 1, and that's what the task does. But of course, the task can get Train Arrow in different means than we can.
Are there any GMDs you can get it from? Or does it
Sky
get it from
1.
the chip trader?
He gets it from the chip trader.
Okay.
To rank that last split out of 10, assuming that you're already getting the Train Arrow, because most of the time if you don't get a Train Arrow there, you're resetting. The Seaside fights went really fast and really well, but the 2 forced encounters did not go well, so I'd say that that split was probably mediocre, maybe like a 4 or a 5 out of 10.
I will say about the folder that Last just did, it was a little bit fumbled, but overall still a very good edit in what it ended up being. He now, because he removed another cannon for a second, added it back in. He now has Train Arrow A in slot 3, very likely to be drawn. Or maybe it was even slot 2, I don't remember. And he also added copy damage in while regging Crackshot. Like menuing is a huge optimization that can be made in pretty much every Battle Network speedrun, like knowing how you're going to do your folder edits and how to do them optimally. So I think, for example, in that folder edit, Last could have regged Crackshot much earlier than he did because he had to go back to reg it after he had done some other stuff with the folder edit. It was like I've put in all the chips I expect that I need to put in. Oh yes, I have to reg Crackshot. But if you do that earlier, it saves a non-zero amount of time.
Yep. I am not particularly practiced at that edit in particular because we recently discovered that it's actually the top 4 slots in Battle Network 6 that we care about, as opposed to 2 through 5 in other Battle Network games. So I was mentally configuring my edit to optimize around that, and so it's just not as smooth. And I did need to go back and re-reg, as opposed to the later edits that I'm a little more practiced at. Just a bit of rust showing.
It's also nicer with the later edits because I think there's only 2 left, but you do a sort before one of them, which basically means that all previous edits get thrown out the window as long as you have the chips you expect. So because of that, the sort will set up the folder in such a way that the edits will go very smoothly.
It does depend partially on what chips you have, and so if you got 2 reflectors versus a mock gun, could have potentially different edits depending on the sort.
Yep. We normally sort by element, so mock gun does get put a little higher than a reflector would be. But luckily, the chips we're removing make it so that doesn't actually matter all too much.
The weirdest situation would be if you got like double Train Arrow, because when you sort by element, then the 2 trainers are going to be at the top, and if you have like a K, you'll probably want to take that out.
And all of the swords are kind of moved down by 1, which is weird because you're trying to remove all of the swords, and it just gets really complicated. No penguin skip. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, had to give up the 2 frames there, but at least I didn't crash.
Yeah. What I call penguin skip is basically just perfectly cutting your horizontal movement such that you don't have to introduce additional turn frames while still not crashing into the penguin.
There's a really hard trick coming up here too.
It's called Copybot Skip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Skipping this Copybot's really easy because you talk to it twice, which is unusual. Most Copybots you talk to once, so you have to remember to go back and do it again.
Okay.
And so we skip the Copybot skip. It saves like 20 to 30 seconds based on how far you ran into the museum before you realized that you screwed up.
The best is when you get to the water and you're like, wait, I'm Lan, I can't swim with jellyfish. This is also the point in the race where Last would give a friendly reminder to get in the Copybot because we're nice people. We don't want to see each other fail. So we give each other slight reminders of certain things that are common to forget.
Yep. So because we have our Train Arrow, we get to use L button strats for the entire duration of the Aquarium comps. And I'll be doing the usual 1 in 16 encounter risk in this first comp in order to save 1 L button strat. With totally 100% perfect movement, you can get by with 3 L button strats and no encounter chance. but I don't have perfect movement that consistently. So fortunately, we already skipped it. Once you make it around that corner, you have skipped the encounter, and we are good to go.
Last says the normal. He is also the only person that does this. Mostly because no one has bothered to learn.
I think Jameek does it now.
Maybe Jameek does. It's still a relatively new thing. I think it's been introduced within the last year. It's probably been talked about before, but...
I've looked briefly at doing a similar strategy for the third Aquarium comp, but you would be risking, I think, at least 3 1-in-16s, and for a 4-second time save, that starts to not be worth it.
Yep. One L button strat is approximately 4 to 5 seconds, which is significant if you're able to get rid of one, especially given that you're not going to get an encounter 15 out of 16 runs.
If you do get the encounter, we just try and run away, because that way it's like a 3-in-64 to lose the run for that purpose. It's not too bad.
Yep. I like the sub-optimization of failing to round the corner so you can't actually run into the red shark there. Very nice last.
Thank you. Just playing it safe.
That red shark, if you actually have perfect movement, you'll run straight into it. But normally you would just do some other thing to make your movement slightly suboptimal. Last took it to the next level and failed to round a corner properly. But
how long until it's worth doing the old Aquarium 2 strat again?
I actually tested it live during a run where I had Train Arrow, and it does not save time. Because of how you have to round to the corners, you end up mispositioned at the very end.
You end up waiting for the red guy anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And slightly longer because you're further to the left.
So you just do it for the swag.
Also in that run I got caught.
Well, it's really hard.
Yep.
This is another comp where you only need to do 3 L-bun strats. It is pretty tight, but Last has done them all pretty successfully so far. So I'm very confident that he didn't even get a single encounter check. Shoutouts to Erothaur for saying, I think you can get away with using only 3 here once in chat. Just being like, okay.
I've been doing 3 in that comp for ages.
We used a script, a Lewis script, that measures the step counts in the encounter chance in order to route these comps out originally. So we could just see, oh, in the next like 10 frames, I'm going to get an encounter chance. Where have I recently passed that would be a good marker? I do all of my L button strats around corners just because they're easy to remember, except very specific ones. If you don't want to go through the trouble of routing it yourself, I have a tutorial that will teach you how to do all of the L button strats over on my Twitch page. You can find it in the Mega Man Battle Network Advanced tutorial.
Yep.
Press L when it feels right. It's about feeling.
The 3 L button strat unfortunately doesn't have like the best indicators because there's like some corners, but
there's a couple like visual ones that are tough.
Yeah. It's because you're trying to be tight with them rather than like actually finding good indicators. You don't have that luxury. You have to do them at tight timings. So
if you haven't gotten a Train Arrow, Comp 1, you have a 24% chance per encounter to get a Train Arrow, and Comp 3, you have a 20%. Comp 2 is way worse, so you just continue to L-button strat through there, and then just don't do L-button strats until you get the Train Arrow in Comps 1 or 3, and then just pick up from exactly where the next place you're supposed to do it is. That might be slightly suboptimal depending on how many encounter checks you've skipped, but it's going to be like 3 seconds, and there's no point in learning that level of detail for these comps.
Yeah, I was also going to say, if you're worried about being suboptimal, you should have reset when you didn't get a Train Arrow in Seaside.
Yeah. Honestly, if you get it first encounter in Aquarium 1, you're only losing like 15 seconds plus having slightly worse edit timing, so probably 16, which isn't too big a deal.
No, it's really not that huge of a time loss. The problem usually results in how long you are waiting to see, is my run dead?
Yeah.
In terms of like super optimizations, there are a lot of backup strats you can do for Train Arrow. Outside of like going for a world record, you can, as we've discussed, just try and get it in Aquarium comps. It's the most optimal in the bad case. However, let's talk about the Dive Man fight. Seems like
that's a really good draw.
It's a really good draw. Seems like Last was hoping he was going to attack, which would have given him a counter hit. Ooh, got canceled out of Mach Gun. Lost the 50-50 for him to move forward, so now he's going to have to wait. Interesting.
Something that might not be obvious that Last's doing in this fight is he's trying to manipulate Dive Man to go exactly where he wants him to go. He lost the 50-50 on the swords, but he did a really good job getting him to go to the back for Train Arrow and then stay in the middle for Mach Gun.
Yeah. No, it was really good until, like, there was only one mistake prior to getting hit out of Mach Gun, which was basically he thought there was going to be a counter hit opportunity, it looked like.
Yes.
Yeah.
The good news is I didn't miss.
Yeah. The chance of him attacking when he comes up is 33%, except for the tidal wave, which he'll do on a consistent cycle every time.
Yep, it'll be on every fourth attack, which is unfortunate because Last technically still could have gotten the counter hit. He wants the counter hit because then Train Arrow would do 300 damage, which is a lot to Dive Man's 500. Puts him at 140 HP on top of any charge shots Last has managed to put in there. And then I think the only thing after Mach Gun got canceled that Last could have done slightly better is once he had lost the 50-50, you can force Dive Man to the front again.
Yeah.
But instead, Last let him go into the middle, and the middle you have to pray for the 50-50.
Right. I lost the 50-50 again, and then just redrew and managed to get the counter hit on the tidal wave.
Yep.
Overall, I would say everything about that split went perfectly. The edit was a little sloppy at the beginning, and then the Dive Man fight was not particularly good. Unfortunately, that adds up for like another mediocre split.
Yeah. It's definitely a better split, but like still overall mediocre because of the breakdown of where we like to have splits now. There's actually 0 RNG in the Dive Man split essentially, except for the Dive Man fight. Last has introduced a little bit of additional one with the 1 in 16 encounter chance, which happens so infrequently that you can essentially ignore it. So it's basically comes down, that entire split comes down to, did you properly execute your movement, and how was your Dive Man?
That's always a fun trick, opening your chip menu, which is just the fastest menu there is to open, why we pick that one, despawns the security cube faster than watching it.
Mm-hmm. Probably saves like a second. These kettle fights are super consistent with Crackshot on reg. That's why we reg it for Dive Man. Crackshot's just better against Dive Man than Reflector, and you need it regged for these Heatman fights anyway. So by remembering exactly when the what the order is for each of these fights, you can consistently deal with each of them simply by getting counter hits at the proper time.
They're scary until you've gotten practiced at them, and then they're trivial.
This is the only one I've been messing up for some reason, and I think BN5 has been throwing off my timing on counter-hitting champions.
I believe that.
I think that's the only thing that's happening. Like, I don't understand.
I used to mess up the first one, but the strat where you move all the way down instead of waiting for the second meteor is actually easier because you can buffer the heat press.
Yep, it's so free. This is a really nice thing that sometimes makes it a bit tricky.
Yeah, this one's easy to mess up too.
After the stove moves once, if the stove is moving into a position that it would be in your row 3 tiles away, it will actually lock on and say, I'm going to do an attack. So by staying in the middle, he will always move there after 2 movements, and then on his way in, you can actually move back and prepare to get a counter hit. And then this one
you copy damage to the bottom one? I don't like that.
Alright, so I do a real quick edit here, just to reg Crackshot. This is suboptimal if you're just going to get perfectly lucky, but I've practiced the next edit with having the Crackshot regged, and that way, if I draw Train Arrow, I'm guaranteed to have a chip I'm happy to take with it. Because it sucks to draw Train Arrow and nothing else you can take with it.
And he did draw Train Arrow. I will say also, it's probably worth regging the Crackshot if you have Train Arrow K. Right?
I agree.
Yeah, if you have Train Arrow K, it's very unlikely that you get a full 1-turn draw. I'm still of the opinion, just get lucky, but that's just me.
Does he get the swag tutorial? He does.
Yes. It's free. It's free. For those that aren't aware, when you basically chips have a cooldown that you can't use them again for a brief period of time. A lot of these are locked by animations. However, Fire Hit is one that isn't locked by animations. Mega Man doesn't have to do anything for Fire Hit to go off. So by pausing after you use Fire Hit, you let the cooldown that is preventing you from using another Fire Hit tick down, such that when you unpause, you can just use it again for free. So by pressing A, then moving right and pressing start very, very fast, and then unpausing and pressing A again, Last is able to get a double hit on both Methars before either of them put their helmets on.
Exactly. There's only really 2 things going on in that split. How well does the Heatman fight go, and do you get the tutorial skip or not? The Heatman fight went perfectly because I even drew a follow-up chip so I didn't have to charge shot him for lethal, and I got the trick. So that was actually a gold split, and we are now 0.4 seconds ahead of world record pace.
Yeah, that split was perfect. The only amount of time save you can have on that split over world record is not regging Crackshot and therefore getting lucky.
Yep.
Or
not regging copy damage.
Could draw
Or not
like
regging
attack plus
copy
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, attack plus 10 would be slightly faster too. But it's these are all like fractions of a second, except not regging copy damage, which is, did you want a 1 in 16 or a 15 in 16 to throw away your run right now for the sake of 5 seconds?
Not regging copy damage is bad. It's a bad sign.
Yeah, don't
Very
go
much
for
don't
that. Don't go
recommend
for that. There's also like one little bit of RNG that's might have taken like a couple seconds at most from Last, which is how fast does Heatman attack. I forget exactly how early he can attack.
I think he did
but
one
it's
extra
random.
movement.
I was gonna say it was like 1, maybe 2. So
Element Trap is an interesting question, Prof. We constantly are discussing whether or not it should be left in the route. I leave it in just because it's useful on G-Beast, and it's chargeable. Although we'll actually see it betray me in this run.
It's a big nuke on G-Beast, and you can charge it, and it's a star code. It's kind of the justification we've had so far.
There are a handful of fights, in particular scary ones, where it is faster than like G-Beast plus triple charge shot also.
yeah, there are fights where it is faster to use it. The problem is that you would have to time out, okay, what is the fastest strat? Is Element Trap the fastest strat? Now that we've determined Element Trap is the fastest strat, what is the second fastest strat? So how much time is Element Trap actually saving? And then how much time does it take to get and then put in our folder?
I don't know if it's ever the fastest strat.
It's not. I've timed all those out.
Okay.
Except maybe G-Beast. But he's a
But
special
yeah,
case.
you hit GBs for what? 480 with it?
Yeah.
You counter hit him pretty easy.
No.
Well, I mean, just draw M-Boomer,
I was
right?
gonna say M-Boomer's still the fastest strat.
M-Boomer's the
but
best drop,
Just
for sure.
triple hit him.
Right. I forgot about that.
Oh my god, dude. I don't want to imagine trying to force a triple hit. I'm gonna do it one of these days.
So because I've already rigged Crackshot, my edit post lotto codes is really clean since I only need to swap out 2 chips. That's another reason why I really like rigging Crackshot before Heatman, even though I got an A code train error and you maybe don't have to, just because it makes that edit so smooth to execute. My lotto codes also went fine, but these soul weps weren't the greatest at the start. We made a couple of little errors.
Kind of
Yeah.
par for the course, really.
Menuing, it's hard.
Doing these perfectly is really hard.
Especially when your heart is pounding because you just drew train arrow on Heatman.
Yeah.
No, yeah, so this is the point in a run where, regardless of if this is a race or not, you start realizing, oh hey, I'm on pace to get world record, right? At this point in the run, all of the huge RNG time losses are basically out of the way. Everything else is like kind of minor in the grand scheme of things, because, for example, getting a train arrow is huge. Like, you will lose a lot of time trying to get a train arrow if you don't get it in Seaside. Drawing train arrow on Heatman is huge. That fight depends on it. You can lose almost a minute on that fight alone. At this point now, all Last has to do is pray that he doesn't get too many random encounters, which is, like, honestly in his favor
Yes.
to be decent enough.
Especially thanks to all the new tricks and routing movement that we've been doing, the random encounters are getting more and more favorable for us. Maybe up until this run. I might have ruined it for everyone.
Last has done a lot of work on that pretty recently.
Yeah.
I've noticed also that you're in the press up to get to Axe team, and I don't know. Down's
disappointed?
better, but
It's not. You don't like the camera just wildly
no, I don't.
flying about?
This area shakes enough, okay?
I think it's because I mash up faster than I mash down, the way my hand naturally rests on my keyboard.
Oh my god, you play on keyboard?
I do play on keyboard.
How?
Keyboard is honestly easier to play on if you're like super adjusted to it in terms of getting things like optimal movement, optimal menuing.
Yeah.
Like using the arrow keys is way better for menuing and movement purposes, in my
arrow
opinion.
keys.
Or whatever you're using.
I play on. All right, we have time while Heatman's running around. My right hand is on 4, 5, 6, 0 on the numpad. That's A, B, R, select and start. And then my left hand is on ESDF because my laptop WASD didn't work and I just got used to it. And then W and R are L and R respectively. The biggest advantage that I think I have doing that is my tutorial. I'll actually pick up my left hand and move it over to help hit the buttons at the right time during the tutorial to get really clean there.
Oh yeah, my hands are all over my controller when I'm playing some.
This is so funny to me that you said ESDF. Oh my god.
Yeah, I was waiting for WASD and then my brain stalled.
I was looking at it and I was like, I get it, but I'm still disappointed. That's so good.
The reason I switched to keyboard originally was trying to do the 100-man challenge with a bad Xbox controller back in BN5 days was not
Oh god,
feasible.
the D-pad on Xbox though.
Yes.
No, yeah, I cannot use that. For reference, I don't know, Erothaur, do you also use the DualShock 4?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I used DS3 before that, so.
Yeah, same here. So the D-pad on those is better. It's not like perfect. I think both of us would still prefer to use like a Game Boy Advance SP D-pad, but well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be too small sometimes. I don't know.
Nah, it's still my favorite way to play
Yeah.
Battle Network is the SP controller.
Yeah. Okay. So that door back there was the reason that Last needs a train arrow.
Though to
For
be
those that
fair,
aren't familiar.
even if we didn't have that door, train arrow would almost be necessary for the sake of beating Heatman quickly at this point.
Yeah, no. We've
Yeah.
had many discussions, and it's just like at this point, like because we can use it, we're just like, okay, we have to use it for Heatman, but at this point, there is no other strategy for Heatman.
Maybe a really nice tornado or Mach gun draw, but our
The
folder just
unfortunate
isn't equipped for that.
The unfortunate thing about Tornado is that you would need to use area grab with that, because when he attacks, he's going to the back row, which you can't hit with Tornado.
That's true.
It's like it's just really tough. He has 700 HP, which is the most of any boss up to this point. Dive Man is the next closest, and you saw how bad that fight even was. 600 damage all in one battle chip is just too good to pass up on. The only exception is maybe a like full synchro life sword would be the play.
Yeah, we could have access to life sword at that point.
Just like I think that's also
We'd
an
have to
RNG
get
chip.
it the same way as Train Arrow, though.
It would increase your chances of getting a chip if you don't need Train Arrow, right? Like assuming Train Arrow is not a story requirement. But anyway, talking about these door fights, similar to the previous Heatman fights, are super consistent with counter hits using crack shot and heat press. This final fight's interesting. Using the Buster actually buffers enough time such that you get a counter hit on the pufferfish when you use heat press.
I actually used it late there, but if you use it a little late, you counter hit the Matar instead, so it gives you a nice little safety window.
Yeah. You don't want to go too fast. I learned that the hard way. Going too fast, you won't actually get a counter hit on anyone. So there is a movement buffer strat where you like move back and forward, forward and back. It works about the same. And then you use the heat press.
So this split is a ton of menuing with the lotto codes and edits and Navi cust changes, and then also all of these soul weps. There's 3 actual RNG pieces in play. The first one's coming up. That'll be whether or not I get a good draw on the heal water fight. Then we'll have a random encounter potential with Heatman and the Circus Man fight. So we'll get out of this crazy menuing amount shortly. I think overall it went clean. There were a couple of minor mistakes, and also saying no to the door fight the first time because for whatever reason it defaults to no on that one.
I love when things default to no, and I especially love when games are inconsistent about it.
It's, I think, the only thing in the game that defaults to no, but also they change which side no and yes are on in some prompts. It's kind of crazy.
It's a strange game.
So this fight, we're hoping to draw any star code chip that isn't Elm Trap. And I drew copy damage, which is perfect. However, I then didn't take heat press.
You also drew air shot, which was also perfect.
Yep. And then Ember.
Let's get Ember.
So the Quaker was actually trolling me a little bit, but that's because I wasn't allowing him to jump to where to go. We got lucky, but it ended up being a fight as if we had played perfectly while being unlucky. So unfortunate there, a minor mistake probably costs, I want to say like 6 seconds?
The full custom screen is about 10 seconds, but
we don't kill right away.
Yeah, I know.
If I had drawn M Boomer right off the bat, that would have been much better, but given that I had drawn copy damage, it was probably like maybe 6 to 8 seconds of time loss. And then here we saw I got the random encounter, so that's another 8 because we could have skipped that.
It's actually about 7 because there was only 2 viruses.
That's fair.
It like adds like about a second. It's a little less than a second for every virus that shows up in the fight. It's the same for pretty much every BN game too. It's kind of funny. especially in like BN3 when there's certain comps that just have one virus.
I'm just glad this game was released when it was, because if it was released in like 2018, if there was a battle mystery data, they'd like have a 5-second animation of like, oh, battle mystery data, let's zoom in on it and make it glow and flashy, and then we'd run away and it would just be more time losses.
They'll add it in the collection.
Perfect.
Oh no.
That was a joke, chat. There's not going to be a collection.
So battle mystery datas do actually lose you time in later areas like Greentown if you're not able to destroy them before you win the fight, because you get another useless reward that they animate in, but it's not that big a problem.
It's also weird because at this point in the run we have access to Heat Cross, and usually because we're just defaulting to using Heat Cross, we don't have a good opportunity to destroy them, because Heat Cross comes out one panel at a time, the charge shot anyway. Which means that it'll never reach the back row where some Battle Green mystery datas are. That's really unfortunate.
And we have
also
double
have
Buster
Buster
Bug.
Bug.
Yes, we can't even shoot him consistently. This is the Circus Man fight, and we drew M Boomer, which is what we care about from an RNG perspective.
So this is one of the biggest time savers you can have for a lot of the rest of the game, is drawing M Boomer on bosses.
You lost a second!
Am I supposed to take the crack shot as well?
Yeah, you take both and you use them one after the other. Not like immediately, but
Okay.
it ends up being the exact same as if you don't draw M Boomer, right? Because M Boomer doesn't cause iframes. He'll jump again and then assume that you're at the start of the fight, right?
I
see. Yeah, it's the same second of time save that you get, but it's so minor. It's a second, as I said. It's so minor.
So
Well, it's one charge shot, right?
It is, but
Yeah.
it still forces.
I guess
him
it
to jump
adds up
every
to
time.
like, you have to wait slightly for the flashing.
Yeah.
That's what you save.
So the RNG there was pretty good. We got 2 of the 3 good RNG pieces, but I screwed one of them up. So overall, that split definitely there's time save available. I dropped
Wow.
8 seconds to whir, 9 seconds to whir. So that's
You also got the Never encounter on the way to the pavilion, Navi.
Yep, already starting off with bad Judge Man split RNG
You
here.
never get that encounter.
It's only
You
like,
only get it when you're walking less distance.
It's 75% to get that encounter, but if you look up all of our combined runs, it's probably closer to like 30% to get it.
yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. So this is the classic detour. This is not a detour. This is, I'm thinking way too far advanced. You actually have to go here. Don't mind me. You actually do have to come here. Yeah, nothing fancy going on. Last is gonna lose some time because he ran into the lady instead of just holding down.
2 turn frames.
Yeah, I never remember where people
One
are in
turn,
the
yeah.
aquarium.
That's one of the interesting things that Last likes to do. I've noticed that Last likes to do the same type of movement through every area, ignoring where NPCs are, which is nice in some ways, right? So for example, one thing you might notice is that he always cuts up when jacking in to your computer at home in Central, which actually loses a turn frame every single time. The only time it's really faster is 3 instances where you have to immediately go to sleep afterwards. However, rather than remember exactly when those 3 instances are,
I just
likes to-
concede the 5 turn frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
So-
save a 1/12 of a second on me, and I will just never mess up the cut up. Because the cut up saves like 10 frames, right?
It definitely
Yeah, it
saves
saves
a larger,
considerably more. Yeah.
it saves a larger number of frames than 1 turn frame every time. So
Right. I'm just trying to minimize the number of things I need to remember, because if a mistake is going to cost me significantly, I'd rather default to a very small loss.
yeah, Last is a very different approach to running this game than I do, at least.
Yeah, Risch likes to cut his corners perfectly, which saves a frame every time, and then he messes up and loses all of the frames he saved up to that point, and then repeat for the remainder of the round.
Except for that one run. Just
It's gonna
wait
happen.
until I get that one run where I don't mess up anything.
gonna be unbeatable.
Even in his PB, he took a trip on the sliders in Seaside too.
At least it's no longer in Word, okay? We don't have to talk about that.
I was worried. I've been accidentally saying no to this kid lately, and I thought I might have here too, but it's all good. We have to talk to him because we're going to need to do
See
another
if you
quiz
get
later on.
Dolphin Skip V1.
Easy every
He
time.
did.
It's
Got
really
him.
helpful for getting Dolphin Skip in a race because everybody's always reminding you.
Yeah.
You were in first.
Lance
though,
is the first person here, so he's the one who says reminder to do dolphin skip. It's like I said earlier, you know, you always whoever gets there first usually is just like reminder to do this thing that you always
I
forget
like-
to do.
Sometimes I'll give the reminder when I think whoever's in first is about to get there.
Yeah.
And then I'll forget when I get there.
Yep. That's the best. Because friendly reminder, even though this is a world record analysis, this was during a race. So at this point, I think Last isn't going to do anything that's like focusing on the race. I think Last's main objective at this point is.
Oh, this
get
has to be a
PB.
war attempt at this point, right?
Yes. Yeah. Or PB at
With
least.
like
I was
really
gonna
dumb
say, this is like
commentary.
100% a PB attempt in Last's mind.
Yeah.
Regardless of the
There's
situation.
just like also silly banter going on.
Yeah. So this
This
is.
is an edit right here. Holy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know if I wanted to pull the train error out or not. I spent a long time thinking about it. I do end up putting it back
Put
in
it
just
back
because I
in.
didn't have another chip, but it's not at the top. I much prefer having a dual crack at the top if I can.
Yeah.
So your top four right now are Black Bomb, M Boomer.
LM Trap and dual crack.
Yeah, that's a pretty good top four.
Dual crack
That's
is
not
the...
even.
Go ahead.
It's not even that. That's not even that bad, honestly. To take it's similar to the removing a cannon to get a better chip at the top. Like, I don't know. Can't. What double crack isn't like super strong. However, there is a fight where it's actually the fastest draw. There is a
Yes.
single fight.
I'm gonna disagree with you
At
there. I
least.
think I even get to showcase there are more fights. It's if you can chain counter hits in Sky Gauntlets or under BBS, there are times when it's faster. And I've been working on strats to do that.
Technically speaking, it would have been faster on this fight.
Yes.
You didn't need to heat cross, and you drew it.
Correct. I guess in Greentown we just... Oh, I double talked to that? Ooh, ouch.
See, that's why I do the turnaround on that one.
You also get 2 encounters here. Was I
Yep.
not mistaken?
Yeah, so we're
And
already
the turnaround on everything.
salty about RNG because we got the encounter that we never get on the way to talking to the people, and we got double encounter on our first trip through Greentown. So 1.5 encounters, more or less, above what we would like to have at this point.
Yeah. The double encounter really hurts. The other ones, whatever.
Yeah, the 8 seconds is 7 or 8 seconds is usually fine. Like, you're annoyed at it, but you don't think too much about it. It's when you get more than one like full encounter.
Yeah.
And this is
It's like the one in ACDC technically expect to get.
yeah. There's a few you expect to get. Also, that's an example of a BGMD strictly losing time. Had to see that he got that wide blade R.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yep. I could have taken
Even
the
if you
opportunity...
busted that first try, I think you still lose time.
Yes.
Like more than breaking it. No M Boomer.
I don't think M Boomer is faster here, actually.
I agree.
Oh, it must be. You don't have to wait all that long.
Yeah, actually, given the heat cross cutscene.
All you had to do would move down and wait like half a second to press A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't compute that immediately, though. Because I'm like, oh, I know Heat Cross takes this out immediately, and M Boomer I might miss.
Even me just now, my brain was like, oh, M Boomer. No, they move less before you get the Heat Buster off. But then you've got the cutscene as well. So.
You could see it in my face. You guys watching on Twitch don't get to see it, but I can see myself as part of this recording, and I could see it on my face that the same thought was going through my mind for that fight.
That's the great thing about BN6 is that BN6 as a speedrun is actually one of the most like optimized and streamlined at this point. That pretty much I think every runner goes through the same thought process every single time they run into a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so often I'll finish a fight and be like, I could have done that slightly faster, and then as I'm thinking about that, I'll run in the wrong direction somewhere.
Yep.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, at the very least, the fastest thing is to do what first comes to your mind. Unless unless your first thought is a mistake, right? Like, let's say, oh yeah, M Boomer's faster, and then you're like, oh, M Boomer just doesn't work.
But then you
fight,
miss,
right?
and you're like,
yeah, it's like,
wasn't
like
that fast?
That's a kind of mistake. However, like for example, using Heat Cross as a default is fine. Heat Cross works in almost every fight because rather than sit on the custom screen for like 5 seconds and figure out what is the most optimal thing I can do here, just do the fight and you're done like 3 seconds earlier.
Normally I enter the battle holding up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I immediately default to setting Heat Cross, and sometimes I'm able to cancel that before, like once I've seen my chips.
I default to taking copy damage and then heat crossing.
Yeah. I don't normally try and take copy damage because some fights don't require copy damage, and pressing like B left or A left A isn't that slow at the end. Like Heat Cross is the limiting factor in my mind. But
the fact that there's a slight delay on selecting Heat Cross is really nice too, because it gives you time to process the chips.
Dude, transitioning from BN6 to other BN games is really weird because I was like, dude, it seems like people select their chips so slowly in other games. Like, you have so much time. And then I realized, no, BN6 has spoiled me.
You just have like a free half second to look at our chips.
Yeah, because you have to set up Heat Cross first most of the time anyway.
Yeah, plus we just have so much playtime in 6 at this point that we recognize patterns really well in the chip draws.
Yep.
And like we know every virus battle.
Oh yeah. Like, because of how few encounters you actually get in BN6, you know exactly what chips to look for. You know what the art looks like. It's really easy. You know, nice last. Just doing a little figure.
High five the dude on the way.
Yeah, I had to give him a little goose for good luck. I think that's like actually the biggest like I was going the wrong way in this whole run though.
That's so funny to me because I've done similar things to that, and one of the things that crossed my mind is like, it didn't look wrong until I realized you never run past that guy in that way at all throughout the run.
Yep.
So that's why it felt wrong to me. It wasn't that the movement felt wrong, it was that like the NPC's positioning felt wrong.
Yeah, a lot of the time if I run in the wrong direction, I'll be like, wait, was there an NPC here? No.
This is an interesting fight. I forget. I want to say you can mash A here with M Boomer and double hit one of the corn.
Yep.
And then it's, I mean, it's 2 charge shots anyway, even if it doesn't double hit.
No, it's a YOLO 50 damage uncharged shot.
There you go. I always look for the attack plus 10 because M Boomer attack plus 10 is fastest.
If I have M Boomer, I just take copy damage M Boomer.
Yeah.
I don't even heat cross it most of the time, I think.
Yeah, no, I would not heat cross there either, seeing M Boomer. But again, like, that's the difference of a couple seconds. It doesn't, it'll make or break your run if you're making the right decision every single time. But, like, a couple wrong decisions are not going to make or break your run.
Copy damage, M Boomer also kind of just high rolls really well. Usually it's probably going to lose a little time compared to heat cross.
Yeah.
At least compared to heat cross, copy damage, M Boomer.
I will say we're about at the halfway point of the run. I don't think anything too special is happening for the next minute or so. So everyone should make sure you're getting up, stretching, staying hydrated, grab a snack.
You wouldn't want to miss the
Staying
action
well out
that
there.
is Judge Tree and Sky Gauntlets to follow shortly thereafter.
Yep.
There's even new fancy movement in the upcoming splits from there, so this is really like the last heavy downtime we'll have.
Yep.
Yeah, the only things here are like, how many encounters? Did you have to do lurking skip?
And
I will
shoutouts to
not
one
say,
side.
did you get to do lurking skip? No one wants to have to do lurking skip.
Fun fact, I did lurking skip twice in the run that was being raced here because I failed it the first time and then had to do it again.
Oh, that's
was-
the worst.
It was great.
Did you got it the second time though?
Oh, I
yeah?
got it the second time, yeah. One of these days, I will make it consistent.
Please do. Lurking Skip is terrifying. So entering the Judge Tree, if you're given the opportunity to Lurking Skip, you're looking for 1 encounter per area. And if you're not given that and get unlucky, it's possible to go like 1-2-2 or even 2-2-2. And in the PB I'm racing against, I think I went 1-2-2. So definitely opportunity for time save versus my PB, which I'm already way ahead of at this point.
Yeah, the full minute ahead of PB feels really good seeing that green on the splits. Usually, it's so unlikely that you get 2 encounters in Judge Tree 1. It's so actually incredibly unlucky. Like, it happens so infrequently that you get 2 encounters in Judge Tree 1 and you're just immediately like, I would be mad at the world.
Yeah.
I would be mad at the world. Like,
Yep.
I can see last.
You can see the nod there when you get out.
Yes.
Yes. Second encounter.
I need to
'Cause
check.
That was actually a relatively early first encounter.
Yeah, I need to check just to find out like what's the earliest or what's the latest encounter that I have to actually worry, because I worry probably far too much about that second encounter.
Hmm.
See, that's a fight I would have just heat crossed. But I do think the M Boomer was faster.
It's a very close decision, and I think even like
It's a one
hesitation-
charge shot fight, so if I see those viruses, I'm not even
Here's
checking
lurking
my
skip.
So
chip.
this is lurking skip. There's about a 10% chance that the Gavel spawns in the wrong area, and you have to try a really swag skip that mostly fails, and then you lose a minute. But if you don't get caught, you save an encounter guaranteed.
Yep. So lurking skip is actually slower movement overall. It's faster movement wise, but the thing is, because you're stepping on the grass, you're actually introducing a bunch of text boxes that make it slower. So, with all that in mind,
You should have
interesting.
crack shotted there. Or double
You
cracked.
can copy damage that bottom guy before he moves too.
There you go.
Yeah, you
Before
can
he
move
rolls
down,
at
you
you.
can copy damage, maybe get hit, but honestly, I think that's faster still than double charge shotting. But I think you probably
So-
don't get hit.
This one is called Celine Dion skip, and this one's free. It's easy every time.
Especially when the Gavel spawns.
This
like,
one
millions
can
of
save an
light years
encounter. Yours was pretty late, so it might not have even saved an encounter. It's hard to say.
Black bomb.
If-
But
have
I
you
got
learned-
through
It's
with
a lot less movement.
only 3 encounters, 1 per, with the way we want. And Black Bomb is a fantastic draw.
You figured it out. You figured out how to counter hit Judge Man.
It's easy.
So
I've seen Last struggle a bit.
did lose some time to Whir there. We're now 18 seconds behind Whir, but I'm a minute 34 ahead of PB, and if we just assume I manage my own PB pace, that's like a 2:10:30. So while I'm technically behind Whir, I have time save on Whir coming up.
Yep.
Overall, that split was also just mediocre. Like, we got Lurking Skip, which is great, but also we got double encounter in Green 1, and there was some sloppiness to it in terms of the fights and the
This-
menuing and stuff like that.
This
So
time loss is what? Probably like Wardrew, M Boomer, Maybe had a cleaner folder edit.
Or
Probably
just
the
got one
cleaner
less
folder
encounter.
edit and got one less encounter.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh, you didn't get the extra encounter in green.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
gold does not
Well-
skip any unusual encounters and is 30 seconds faster than that. It just
You only
1 1
lost
1
10
I will actually
seconds.
say I highly doubt he goes for lurking skip, so he probably got 2 encounters in Judge 2.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
the
right.
encounter. You probably got the same total number of encounters, especially
Yeah.
because the time loss was only 10 seconds. I feel like it was more minor stuff.
Yeah,
there's-
normally,
Maybe he skipped the
normally
8-second random.
yeah, like the 8-second one probably. That one I can see because like that plus some sloppy menuing makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
There is still definitely
Or
free
like that
time
plus
save
Emboomer.
in that split though, and if you're gonna get really lucky, you could still save like 45 seconds.
Oh,
But that's real lucky.
like so we're talking like average. Normally you get 1 encounter green 1, 2 trips through, 1 encounter green 2, and then I'd say the average is probably 1 encounter in Judge 1, 2 encounters in Judge 2, 1 encounter in Judge 3. Like that's the average. But you can skip the one in Judge 2. You can actually skip the ones in Green 1. You can very
Green
likely
2.
actually skip Green 2. That one's more likely, but Green 1's incredibly unlucky. And unlikely, but still possible.
So you could have 4 fewer encounters in the extreme event in that split and play better. So Judge Man is just this roulette wheel of do you save time, do you lose time, and it's all about that RNG.
Yeah.
We kind of glossed over the slip run detour there, but slip runner is a really, really powerful Navi custom program for speedrunning that has a lot of interesting effects.
It also is just strictly faster to go out of your way. Like, even the task does it.
I'm still not 100% sold on it being faster for the test, actually.
Really?
But
Interesting.
you don't get encounters anyway. I don't know if the movement speed boost is that much enough.
I don't think it's going to be, but
You'll have to see. It's interesting,
Yeah.
though.
because it is like a minute 50 out of your way, right?
I don't know if it's that much.
It's a minute and a half at most.
Okay, for the tasks, especially since they can mash faster.
Yeah. It might even be closer to just like a straight up minute, but because you get on the Lev bus going back to Sky at the 2-minute mark. You have to deal with all the cutscenes prior, and some of the movement is still required to get to the Lev bus. So, setting up this shortcut for later. Just a common, happens in every BN6 speedrun at this point.
And now we're to
Last-
Sky Gauntlets.
Last is optimize some of the movement in Sky Town to get fewer encounters. You'll see that in between the gauntlets.
Or maybe I'll screw it up.
Maybe. Who knows? This is very good movement pattern from the old stoves, such that they moved twice and lined up perfectly after letting you get a copy damage off. And Boomer always works here. They never line up in the middle. And you even got a counter hit. That's
You got a double
I
counter hit.
intentionally delay for the counter hit,
I know.
so that when I draw a useful chip here, like M Boomer, it's faster.
because now he doesn't have to heat cross.
Yep,
This is
and-
actually incredibly interesting.
Double crack would have been faster there also. And that's one reason
Yep.
I like double crack. I've been really trying to find the subtle optimizations.
Oh, this strat's cool. Oh,
Unfortunately,
you didn't get the slip
I
one.
missed it, so now we're like 50-50 to get an encounter, but we skip it. I attempted to slipwalk off of that green Navi that we crashed into, so that I would guarantee have no encounter here, but actually because I messed it up, my movement afterwards was faster, because I then proceeded to slip more.
Yep.
Just get lucky.
Just get lucky. It's true. And Boomer draws are almost always just good on pretty much every fight. There are a few that it's not, but
And
this
surprisingly, Black
one.
Bomb can beat M Boomer fairly frequently.
yeah.
If there's a fire virus, you just put the Black Bomb on them, and it's faster than M Boomer.
Because you don't have to worry about the heat cross,
Yep.
like animation or anything.
This is the
This
first
is
one,
yeah,
really
and-
nasty one.
You don't even need a copy damage with Black Bomb.
This will be an
So-
interesting fight. How did you handle this? Nice pause buffer. Did not get the
I didn't
double.
get the first one, but I got the.
That's honestly fine. Like,
It's standard,
That's still faster than most people do that fight.
So ideally, you copy damage the 120 health one, and then you get a charge shot off on the 240. He hits you, and then before he closes back up, you hit him again. It's a damage boost strat, and it saves a little bit of time there. But I probably lost like 2 or 3 seconds from not doing it perfectly.
I like that you used copy damage in one of the fights. That's just completely unnecessary.
It didn't lose any time though, because I lost the 50-50 for him moving the right way.
Yes. So this is one of the interesting fights where I don't actually know if it's faster. Copy damage actually is not faster on this because you need 2 charge shots anyway. What you're
No.
supposed to do.
Copy damage was there because he had the Recuv 150.
He would attack and it wouldn't matter because you damaged
Yeah,
boost
he
off him.
never uses that.
He has definitely used it on me before.
Then
you're just
go
slow.
fast.
Alright, sounds like I'm bad.
But yeah, so normally what you do there on that first fight at least is you start charging, but you have to wait a little bit so that the cursor moves onto you, and then you step forward and double charge shot and you damage boost to get the charge shots off very fast.
And
All
apparently
the
he
other
can't
fights
heal.
have gone. All the other fights have gone really well though. Nice little delay.
I didn't actually
can
go
save-
for the swag on that one. Yeah.
You can save like a tiny bit of time by somehow managing to get them to line up on the same tile so you get a double hit. It's super tricky and like saves maybe half a second.
It's probably less. I'm pretty consistent at it, but I didn't go for it there just because I'm like, I'd rather not screw this up.
Yeah. And now for the final 10 fight gauntlet. Unfortunately, I don't think Black Bomb.
It does.
Oh, it does.
Very
yeah,
small amount.
That's fair.
Otherwise, we would have to wait for the back Metar to stand up as part of his animation.
Yeah. Taking
he
copy
comes
damage
over.
here in case he moves to the center. Very good.
Yep, an excellent M Boomer.
This one's an interesting fight. You want to copy damage the starfish. However, you can't move down and use the copy damage before the bubbles come out. The bubble will actually block the copy damage. So instead you have to wait for the bubbles and copy damage the Quaker virus, or the Shaker, I guess is what he's called. Interesting. I like the usage.
Yeah, that's definitely faster than Heatgrass.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a double crack fight if you can draw it, but the Vulcan 2 into Vulcan 1 or the reverse, as long as you get a counter hit, is good enough. But you have to get the counter hit.
Which, because it's a multi-hit, is actually pretty easy on the timing. This fight will be interesting.
This
I
fight's
really
really
like this
cool
fight.
too.
I think he trolled me.
Did you get the damage booster on you?
I do. I get the
Yeah.
damage boost. He didn't troll me enough.
Yeah. So basically, there's like a bunch of chances that the pulse bulb gets to move down, and once he moves down, he decides to attack you. But sometimes he could just stay in the top row forever, and then the copy damage run out. Also, that fight with the Champy is super cool. Really like it. I think I remember watching this during the race. This is unfortunate that he moved like that, because now you have to wait for the Piranha to move two more times.
Yep. I think that is actually a mistake to just take M Boomer there. I think you're supposed to do other stuff as well, like M Boomer, or even just like mash A and then just double charge shot. So I think I did that fight poorly, but I got lucky with their movement at the end of the day, and that I didn't get punished harder.
Yeah. And then this fight's pretty simple. Final fight, I think, yeah. Just triple hit the charge shot.
So I was up against a gold split in my PB here, and we do end up dropping a little bit of time. Against where we drop some time too. So now 22 seconds behind world record.
Yep. It's like some of the fights were pretty good, but obviously not all of them were perfect. As we saw, the sort of mistake with M Boomer.
And you can always just draw more M Boomers and more
Yep.
Black Bombs.
Yes, for sure. Definitely, there's a few good draws of it, but honestly, compared to a perfect one, definitely not enough. And now comes like probably the final really big RNG.
Yep. We're gonna have to walk Heatman all the way to the Undernet, through Sky 1, Sky 2, and Undernet 1 twice, with the potential for a large number of encounters. Up to 6, possibly. And only one of those is a guaranteed runaway.
Yep. And the other thing about this that is an interesting thing to note is that this was the biggest time save over the previous world record. The previous world record, by address, got a lot of encounters as Heatman. Like, an insane amount.
Yep. My PB also did. So my gold in this split is a minute faster than my PB was. So this is the central area. There is a chance here, but if you get the encounter, you have a 100% chance to run away. So I usually only consider that half an encounter. But we skipped it. That's good.
Now in Sky Area 1 and the Undernet, or the Sky Areas and the Undernet, you have a 50% chance to run away as Heatman. So it's not always a good idea to do it unless you just have a bad draw. But Black Bomb is honestly a good enough draw that you don't need to worry about running away. That fight was pretty fast. That is what you're looking for. You're looking for pretty fast fights.
Typically, Black Bomb, M Boomer, Elm Trap, sometimes Double Crack. And you can clear the encounter fast enough.
You do also have access to Heat Press since you are Heatman.
That works well on the planes, because you can double hit them easily.
Yeah.
Fire sorties as well. You can double hit, usually, because they're moving back side to side. And so far, we dip into that extra comp to reset our step counter, and you can see Last literally got one encounter the entire time. Not even 1.5.
That's
one. That is
exactly what you want to see.
At this point,
basically perfect.
I am no longer thinking about can this world record. I'm thinking about can this sub 210.
Yeah.
Which is one of our long-stated goals.
Yeah, it's basically like there is really not that much RNG left. There's like another section where you can get a bunch of encounters, but it's like over the course of 10 minutes.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot more opportunities for encounters, but they're kind of spread out through the rest of the run.
Yeah.
And also the G-Beast fight is going to be pretty important.
Yep. Honestly, those two things are the last sources of RNG really in the run. That can massively shape.
Don't die to
change
under
your time.
BBS would be the other thing.
Yeah,
Under
but
BBS
that's-
is easy once you practiced it. That's the best part of this. I was more confident than I would have been coming in because I have been grinding the hardest stuff at the end of the game, and not the early game.
Cool.
So I was very nervous at this point, and it gets worse.
I expect to see Pulse Bolt counter hit. I expect to see
I've never
perfect
learned
AI
that.
loop on kernel.
Last has convinced me that counter hitting the pulse bulb actually is not faster than just charging. Especially now that we have 200 damage charge. You just copy damage the pulse bulb and charge a chip, do some bustering. That's all you need.
Oh, okay.
It's really not a scary fight. You basically need the only time that not even. Yeah, if you can counter hit, then you can do the same thing because you need 2 chips basically to be able to consistently deal with that fight.
This is the
TVs.
last fight I am scared about dying to in the game at this point. In fact, it's probably the only one.
You can just like go GBs and take it super safe.
If I draw Black Bomb, I will go for it, and then
Nope.
there's a chance
Nope.
I die.
No way, not a chance. Never in your life.
Black Bomb is free. You guys are scared
No,
from nothing.
I'd touching Black Bomb on this fight.
Black
Not with
Bomb
Buster
is
Bug, too.
free.
So, but I didn't draw it, and that's another relief. It's just like Lurking Skip. Like, if you draw Black Bomb there, you have to go for it, and it can end your run harder than Lurking Skip can.
I don't think I would go for that or Lurking Skip personally. I might do Lurking Skip.
And
but-
this is why Erothaur no longer has world record.
I mean, this is a lot more time to come off my PB than that would save.
That's another really good draw. Normally you have to G-Beast that and like get 2 charges at least, with some busters. Actually, no busters necessary. So just 2 charges, but Black Bomb means just a single charge shot. It's really nice.
That's a difficult one in terms of chip selection, though, because you saw I took copy damage. It was entirely unnecessary, but the default for if you get M Boomer or if you have to Beast Out is you should just take copy damage and not Heat Cross. And so that's why it took me a while to, okay, I have to take copy damage, and then wait, I have Black Bomb. What do I do with that? Oh, I Heat Cross into Black Bomb, but in that space of time, I never unselected the copy damage. So there's a couple of actually difficult fights in terms of chip flow going quickly.
Yeah, the problem is like you normally want to take copy damage on pretty much every fight as a default, which is why I always default to using Heat Cross first, because that way you don't have to worry about...
What, you could do that?
Yep, mashing A works. And Boomer is very good chip. But yeah, that's why I choose to not select copy damage right off the bat, because that gives me a chance to figure out what is the optimal draw here. Do I even need copy damage?
But you're telling me you Heat Cross against the triple Puffy fight by default?
Well, no, in that fight...
You gotta stop and think about it, yeah.
That fight, no, I default to beasting out first.
I default to Heat Cross.
And there you go, I default to copy damage and think. So 3 different runners, 3 different strategies. Very interesting.
I think generally speaking, I look at the chips. If I see Black Bomb, I Heat Cross. If I don't see Black Bomb, I Beast Out.
I default to beast out first. It's basically the same thing. You press, instead of up, you press left down A.
There are some fights where I just strictly look at the chips. That's one of them. The Wind plus Starfish one, and I think the Pulse Bolt one, I would always look at the chips as well. But I mean, if you can tank through it, then sure.
So this is the Element Man comps, Mr. Weather, and this has been one of the biggest things that I have rerouted recently. Specifically, we're going to slipwalk off of this prog and a GMD later on in order to significantly reduce our encounter chance. In this comp, we drop our encounter chance a lot, and we've also learned that it's better to just hope that you don't get an encounter rather than jack out and jack back in. And in comp 2, we'll have an 100% chance of avoiding the encounter.
Yep. I really like these optimizations. So technically speaking, the slipwalk off of the prog is almost just strictly faster because of the fact that you're much more likely to skip the encounter. And being able to slip after the prog does not save you enough time, really, to justify it. And last managed to skip it. It's pretty sweet. This one is technically a on average case. You will always not get an encounter here. However, not being able to slip here actually does lose a relatively significant amount of time because of the distance that you've traveled. So this is on average faster to do this strat. But in the best case, this is actually slower by something like 3 seconds. I don't even remember.
Yes. But you're giving up. Going for that 3 seconds is going from a 0% encounter chance to like a 70% encounter chance.
Yep. So it depends on what you're going for. If you're going for an absolutely perfect run that like a human could, oh wow, you even got the double Typhoon. That's incredibly lucky to have them line up in such a way that you can circle both of them. And it happened so fast too. It wasn't like waiting around at all. Like this Mr. Weather comp is actually incredibly fast.
Yep,
I think if I'm not mistaken, did you mess up here, actually? I guess we'll see.
I messed up in Pavil 3.
Hmm.
There's some really tricky movement here and hard things to remember, like you don't want to slip up the ramp. And this slip right now, you'll see I actually like lined up for a second because it's very tight, the positioning, and if you do it wrong, you like quadruple your encounter chance. So I took a moment to make sure that went well.
And now all he has to do is slip down the ramp and slip into Element Man for a 0 encounter Mr. Weather comp on top of a perfect Heat Man. This is actually like the fastest Mr. Weather, like fastest Element Man split ever seen. Probably.
And I draw a boomer.
Yep. The only thing that could have been better is him lining up on grass panels a little bit more. But like, this whole Element Man split took less than 11 minutes. It's incredibly fast.
So we were 22 seconds behind Sky Gauntlets, behind world record after Sky Gauntlets. We are now 1 minute and 10 seconds ahead, and I am 2:47 ahead of PB.
Is that just from encounters? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. I am on 2:08 pace at the moment.
Disagree. You're on.
Am I not on 2:08 pace
You're on
yet? Oh, sorry, not
2:09.
yet. It's after this split that I get on 2:08
Yeah,
pace.
you're like 2:09:30 pace right now compared to your PB at least.
Bad at math.
But yeah, like at this point, if you look at the run as a whole, right? Train Arrow, BBS, probably like a 30-second time save. Dive Man, maybe
Similar.
like
20.
a few seconds.
A really nice fight. You could get 20 seconds
Yeah,
there.
yeah, maybe 20 seconds. Heat Cross, basically perfect. Circus Man, maybe like 10 seconds. Judge Man is another big time save. There's upwards to a minute, but reasonably speaking, probably only 20 seconds of time save. Maybe. Yeah. So overall, like, you can only be a minute faster at this point in the run. An hour and a half in, and Last has practically only lost about a minute. Compared to, like, pretty much the best case.
I did, yeah. There's a small optimization there. We went to Greentown and got the banner. It's about 5 seconds faster than jacking in at home. Wow.
For a second, I thought you just reset there because of like slight delay on the Discord video. It was just like the screen suddenly went white. It didn't look like it transitioned to that, and I was like, "Did you just soft reset?" But no. So yeah, because you're already positioned in Greentown, it saves a bunch of time going through your house, jacking in there, and a couple of screen transitions that are unnecessary at this point.
Yep.
Overall, like, the way that we timed this is I actually went and did the movement in a TAS, and I counted the frames, and the frames add up such that it's about 300-ish. So 5 seconds of time save. So that's just pure movement. And that's even, I guess that's technically an optimal case. But because there's more movement the other way, it allows for more time loss because of bad movement.
Which is interesting because the task doesn't get green HP.
Like, unless I'm just completely wrong, but I do have the task files still, so I can send them so people can
I've
confirm.
been losing confidence in the BN6 task.
True.
I mean, if they'd never thought
the more
to
I
check
look
that,
into it, Yeah, it's an easy thing in this for sure.
Yeah.
We're in a unique position where we have to scrape every second we can.
Yep. BN6 is like one of the few. Like, BN1 is also super optimal at this point. And BN6 is probably the next most optimal speedrunning wise. It's just incredible. The task time, I believe Erothaur mentioned earlier, is about a 145.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there, 145 or 146.
You can't hear it, but Lass is introducing a bunch of little small slips at pretty much every place that he can. And what this does is it's actually faster movement, because slipping basically is the same thing as just running in terms of your step counter. But
Oh my
you even
god.
got this.
Really?
Yep.
Yep.
So
Okay,
it's
so you
it's
can.
a 25% chance to be able to skip this encounter in this way.
Oh, you took that soft lock really safe.
Paused right there. Holy crap.
My last run, I missed, like I pressed B and missed that warp, and then got an encounter because
Oh.
I hit the wall. So that's why I slowed down. It's not like I was worried about the
Oh,
soft
okay.
lock.
Yeah, no, it's just funny that you stopped for a second.
So it's a
So, yeah.
25% chance to be able to skip that encounter there on English only, because if you try and do that on Japanese, you'll soft lock, so it's only a 4% chance that they make it all the way to the warp.
Yep. So far, Last has skipped like 4 chances at an encounter, effectively, I think.
5.
Did we
Sky,
mention
sky,
that at all, by
under
the
1,
way?
under 1, under 2.
The
We've
reason
not
we're
really-
playing on English is because English is faster.
Yeah, so the Japanese version saves time due to fewer text boxes in general. However, English has the ability to slipwalk off of GMDs, BMDs, anything that gives an item even. Because in the Japanese version, if you get an item while you slipwalk, you actually softlock the game.
That's the previous wear to this run was on Japanese Virtual Console, which should technically be the slowest version.
they can't
On
even
average,
slip.
yes. But in a optimal sense, it is the fastest because it forces you to not slipwalk. Slipwalking is strictly slower than getting lucky. However, the chances are so different. Like slipwalking saves so much time because of certain mechanics that we can abuse because of it, right?
Mhm.
Like it basically makes encounters sometimes impossible to get, like you saw in Mr. Weather 2. That's
Yeah.
not possible. There is no universe that you like can ever get that close in Mr. Weather 2 on Wii U VC like that.
Correct.
Same thing with AC/DC area. Like you can't skip encounters in this area. You're gonna get encounters. This is also something that Last has recently rerouted along with the Mr. Weather comps. Is this route through AC/DC the first time?
I'm disappointed that I don't think you've swag talked to anything yet.
Oh, I don't swag talk.
Ah,
Oh, you do it this way.
Yeah, so this was one of the pure time saves that I found when I was doing the reroute. We had a route where, depending on when you got encounters or didn't, we would jack out at that shogi piece, and that actually just loses 5 seconds in the absolute case to trying to walk back. And I do a couple slips. If we skip this encounter, it saves some time, but this encounter actually only loses us about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's not that bad because honestly, jacking out to talk to roll isn't that bad compared to walking back to the comp. It's honestly relatively comparable. It's even though there's a whole animation involved, it's not that bad. So Last decided to slipwalk off of the red Navi before because that's the first time that you can possibly get an encounter. It's the same thing here. You don't have an encounter chance until you get here, so it's really nice. That's just like the best time. He also has the fewest text boxes pretty much in the area for slipwalking purposes. However, on the first trip, you can actually just risk the encounters and continue to move normally. You only get like really small encounter checks up until like the shogi piece, and then you slipwalk off the prog, which is the way that I do it. And it effectively does the same thing. You just have a slightly higher chance at encounters because you're getting the early encounter checks.
You have like a 15% higher chance of encounters. I have 16 and you have 30, thereabouts.
Yeah.
That's a slightly more punishing encounter than the one at the barrier, though.
Yeah. But when you're grinding for a good time, just get lucky.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna do what I've practiced when I'm 247 ahead of PB.
For sure. At this point, you do whatever is most comfortable. You're not thinking like super optimal.
I think risks are for when you're behind or like barely even.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're ahead, you should do the most consistent strat. I think you should aspire to be ahead.
And this is why you'll never get the best times. because you don't try to nail everything.
This is why
together.
you step on slider panels.
No,
So
that has
in
nothing
this
to do with
whole
it.
split,
That's just my move.
there are
No.
about 10 encounters possible, and I got one, and it's the one that punishes you the least in terms of time loss.
Yep. No, yeah, this was an absolutely perfect split. Like,
The only
in
thing that
every way.
wasn't best possible was these boss fights. I didn't draw anything to help with Blast Man, and
unfortunately.
a really bad Dive Man draw slows us down a little bit.
yeah. If you can get 3 charge shots off here, it's actually really good. But unfortunately, it does not work out that way. So I think you want 2 charge shots here
He
to at least.
still got
make
him
it.
below 800 though. That's good.
Ideally, 3 gets him to about 600. It actually gets him at 610, which is 3 charges
Unhelpful.
and like
A couple
It's-
busters.
yeah.
Buster him during the wave. You can make him
Yeah.
HP.
Yep. So now at this point, actually, if Last had taken the Vulcan, he wouldn't have had to charge. But honestly, charging while he's not able to be damaged doesn't matter. So again, like 30-ish seconds of time save compared to his PB,
35 over where.
and another 35 over
Yep.
world record.
So now I am on
Exactly 209
208
pace.
Or, no, 208.55.
Yeah, it's like a sub 209 pace right now. If he continues to match his PB,
Which
does
was
have
like
some-
gold. at the
Yeah,
end.
it's like basically you have to be perfect past this point.
Mhm.
Effectively.
I even had the perfect G-Beast fight, so probably not gonna happen.
I'm pretty sure you can sub 9 with an absolute perfect kernel split. But
Yeah, I drew
Oh,
perfect.
you
on
can hold
G-Beast, but
left
not-
past that kid there.
You can.
Yeah.
you
Wow.
can't go. You can't hold right on the way back, right? So right here, you can't.
Yeah,
do
you,
it.
on the way back, you can't hold right. You have to go around him.
I could have sworn you had to walk around that kid. I even put it in my tutorial.
Must have been one of the times I wasn't watching to correct you. But yeah. So at this point, like, this split has little to no RNG in it. The only RNG is the G-Beast fight, which is a pretty big source, but it's like one fight, right? So it doesn't feel like a lot, but then again, it actually is a lot. And then you can obviously draw like M-Boomer on Kernel to make up a lot of time too, like 5-10 seconds.
So well, this is probably the last bit of downtime as I just run around and clean up some more evil spirits and talk to people. If this run is inspiring to you and you want to try your hand at some Battle Network 6 speedrunning, there is a reasonable tutorial that you can find on YouTube by our very own Erothaur, and that'll get you following along with that. An excellent place to get started. If you're a little more comfortable with the game and sort of know where you're going already, I have a series of advanced tutorials. They're designed to take your time from 3 hours or less, all the way down to 2:15, challenging for 2:10s. There's almost nothing I didn't include in those. You can find them on my Twitch page.
The only thing he didn't include are the things he doesn't know, like, you know, the fact you can
Walk
Hold
left
left.
around that kid.
pass
Yeah.
that kid. Yeah, so this split is just a bunch of downtime. At first, it's just a bunch of walking back and forth, and then you have the Evil Spirits Part 2, basically.
It's a really nice time to catch your breath, though, and like let your heart rate drop a little when you are 314 ahead of PB.
Yeah, but then you start to realize it's like, oh, how's my G-Beast fight gonna go? Luckily,
So-
G-Beast, at this point, I don't think any runner would die to G-Beast. Like,
Right.
early on in, like, running, like, we used to be scared of potentially dying, and newer runners still run that risk, I would say. But at this point, G-Beast basically can't kill you, as long as you have practiced the fight enough. It's basically a matter of, is my fight going to take me, like, 10 seconds, or is it going to take me, like, a minute and a half?
We have a plethora of chips that help out a lot. Black Bomb, M-Boomer, Elm Trap is fine. Even Double Crack with a counter hit does 240 of his 800 HP pool. But if you don't see those, and you get a lot of like Vulcan, Cannon A, Cannon B, attack plus 10, you're gonna be sad, and it's gonna take a while.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. I was thinking Vulcan 2 also is pretty good, but I'm comparing it to when you're Beast Out Mega Man.
Right.
Because when you're Beast Out, you get 15 damage times 4, but it's 15 plus 30, so it's 45 times 4, which is like 180 damage. And then you full synchro that, you get 360, but that's actually the same amount of damage that you would do with a Double Crack, actually. But it's only when you're Beast Out, unfortunately. Which is not a possible option with Heatman.
That'd be awesome if we could Heat Beast as Heatman.
Imagine. Heat Beast against the Beast. Yeah, this is just a bunch of more menuing. Over and over and over again. This one isn't that bad. The next one is a bit tricky. You only have room for essentially one mistake. And sometimes even one mistake, if it's big enough, can cost it. Make you have to restart the whole puzzle again in Underground 2.
And that puzzle's a good, like, 2 minutes long.
Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar or you don't have maps to follow, that can be pretty tricky. However, at this point, like, we basically have it memorized such that the biggest mistake we'll make is like we use one weapon out of place, and most of the time we'll catch that even before we use it.
I remember when people used to make mistakes on the soul weapons.
Free
I
time
don't know
save
about
for
you.
next run.
I don't know.
I
about
also
you.
remember seeing people die to G-Beast, so
Yep.
one name names, but
I don't know if I've seen people die to G-Beast. I'm trying to remember if
I've-
I ever have.
pretty sure we had a clip of you dying to G-Beast in the literally command for a while.
Okay, I've died to a lot of things, so I'll believe it. It's almost like interesting when people lose runs in ways we haven't before.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're rare at this point.
Yep. Or like when we see a new text box. Recently, I think it was Lurking, didn't get the heal water and went back as Heatman to talk to Mega Man. Was like,
Oh,
we've never seen this text box before. So
Yeah, he did that, and then you just see Mega Man saying like, I think it's just a bunch of A's or something weird. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's in Mega Man?
like the first time you find out you can talk to Land's house, and you're like, oh, come on.
What?
you can talk to Lan's house.
Yeah, if you're walking at the doorway, you can examine it while standing directly in front of the door.
That's so funny. It's like almost, it's almost like being able to read the mat in Land's
Like,
room in like
Yeah,
BN5.
BN5, you start the race, and the first thing both runners do is talk to the floor.
You can talk to the mat in Higgs Beast. I think you can actually talk to the mat in Astroland too, funnily enough.
Alright, so
I've never done
here
that
comes
one.
the G-Beast fight. I was actually practicing this right before the race, and I made a mistake. I used Element Trap while the Elec attack was on the screen, which cancels your
no.
Element Trap. And this is, I've just gotten to the point where I default to using it as soon as I can, so it's just available, and I don't have to worry about like maintaining the charge shot anymore, things like that. And,
The disappointment in your face when you didn't get a charge shot there. That was actually kind of funny.
so not the greatest draw. We've got a couple double cracks, which are obviously very powerful. But,
Not if you only use half of them.
right,
Yeah, you're only.
miss a counter hit there. Unfortunate.
Oh no.
And
Don't do it last.
there it is. So this would have done half of GB's remaining HP, but I don't, and then I mock on the back row. I don't even notice that my Elm Trap didn't do anything. Like, I'm convinced, that's why I only took one Vulcan, because I'm like, alright, he's about to blow up for a bunch of damage, then we'll just charge shot him to death. nothing happens.
Oh, this was the funniest part of the run when Last was talking about this, and I was like, wait, Last, what did you do? Ah, made the exact same mistake. I called him out on it too before the race because I was watching him practice, and I was like, Last, you used it a bit early. He didn't notice it in practice.
I didn't notice it in practice either. I'm just like, why didn't my element trap do anything? Doesn't make any sense.
That's the worst. That's the difference right there.
It really
It's
so
funny.
that probably cost 25 seconds. Is a decent estimate because I had to do like a full custom screen and a half, plus combat on top of that.
Well, you had the
Chip
mock
slash.
gun as well, so you could have potentially counter hit him into it as well.
Fortunately, Colonel's awesome, although I do get hit. Then he goes to the
Yeah,
grass
but-
panel.
Well, no, in my opinion, that's how you're supposed to play this. You're supposed to make the optimal use of every grass panel because it's more effective to deal double.
If you get M Boomer, it's not about the AI loop anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't do the AI loop until there's no more grass panels I can get him on.
So we lost 50 seconds that split, which was entirely the G-Beast fight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In fact, we
Just
probably
a-
lost more during the G-Beast fight because that Colonel was so good.
Yeah, it was like a relatively good. It was a pretty good Colonel fight, but it was a really just bad draw on GBs. You didn't see a single good ship until turn 3, which was thrown away, and then
Yep.
you didn't see another one until turn 5 when he was already below the HP necessary.
So 51 seconds ahead of world record, 220 still ahead of PB, so we're on 209 pace still, but it's starting to be real tight. 209.50.
Yeah, and at this point, like we mentioned earlier, that Last is going up against a bunch of golds in a row. We do have a split now called Final Day. At least for Last and I, we like this because it splits up the end of the run after Colonel. And so basically this split is about 6 minutes long. Last's gold is 3 seconds faster than his PB.
To
So
be
there's
fair,
really not a time save.
my gold still got a bad encounter, so
Yeah, okay.
there's potential for save, but there's only 2 random encounters possible in this split. This is one of them. Your trip through Sky 1, it's a 6% chance.
It's a very small chance, yeah.
Unfortunately, we hit it. And then later on, we'll see if Virus Master Glide is nice to us.
Never an encounter on Virus Master Glide if you do it right.
That's confirmed to be false.
You're just doing it on the wrong frame, I think.
No, we
so-
understand. We understand why we don't get encounters on the Pavil 1 now, and we know why you get encounters on Glide.
Oh, because you're doing it on the wrong frame. Way to frame next time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just don't get an encounter on that
I mean,
frame. Easy. Come on.
It's still true that if you do it right, you do.
I draw
Not-
God Draw here, which is M Boomer double attack plus 10 to do exactly 190 damage to those guys.
This is so interesting now because he has full synchro going into this next fight. So there's some
Yeah.
interesting things he can do with
In
this.
fact, I do it.
There's like,
Did you get him?
Oh no, I don't do it.
Oh
I
my
thought I
god,
did
you
it.
got mock gun though?
no.
I was thinking
This-
of
Oh,
a
you
different
just
run.
get
No,
so-
this is a real bad.
Technically
fight.
speaking, you can do the exact same thing that like we were talking about, where you step forward. Oh, you could have.
Oh my God, wow.
You could have totally just like stepped forward, copy damaged one of the pufferfish, and then like charge or just use the Vulcan on the other pufferfish. Technically speaking, getting the pulse bulb out of the way is faster, but
That was just one of those bad draws that I wasn't particularly prepped for. in that
yeah,
fight.
no, it was that one's tricky. Like
That was a super good fight though.
it was still pretty good. Don't get it wrong, but
Oh,
it-
he moved into the fire.
yeah.
Easy.
Yep. It's like it wasn't the fastest ever, and there are so few instances that you go into that fight with full synchro. So it's not something you think about.
I
M
always have
Boomer-
full synchro if I draw M Boomer the fight before now, because I consistently set up the counter
see.
hit there.
I see. So yeah, M Boomer works on this fight pretty well, but you still need a charge shot. But it saves up to 1 or 2 charge shots. That's what M Boomer does in that fight. So overall, those were really good fights, but he did get a random encounter.
Yes.
So.
And honestly, I wouldn't say they were that good because that middle one was fairly slow.
They were better than average, I would say, but they were not perfect all the way through. Small little thing, but I like to comment on it. Knowing where the cutscene trigger is and cutting out of his horizontal movement there, because he knows that it's not necessary at this point. Even though technically you're supposed to be going to the helipad, the cutscene trigger is like not quite there, and it's on the diagonal. So you can cut out a horizontal movement to save a number of frames.
Yep. I actually, when I was grinding my under BBS split to practice those fights specifically, I would go up to doing exactly that cut. So I would remember it.
Also, a minor thing that is really like kind of interesting about the route. So we went to AC/DC last time, despite the fact that it wasn't actually necessary. However, now, technically going from AC/DC to Sky is actually pretty fast because AC/DC doesn't actually have the whole long animation of a lev bus. And it allows you to set up the shortcut so that all you have to do is jack in from home and you're in AC/DC's internet to go invite your friends to the expo. So it's like, I never thought about why this was faster for a while, but it's really interesting when you understand some things about like movement and routing.
Yep, and shout outs to Virus Master Glide coming up.
Fortunately, he's friendly.
Yep.
So we did get one encounter, and those fights weren't perfect. So we end up losing 15 seconds or so to PB, although we save 7 seconds on Whir. So about a full minute up on Whir, going into the boss rush.
And at this point, Lass is going up against a gold on the final split that probably isn't perfect still. The final split has so much in it that is difficult, that there's so much that can go wrong. But he's still going up against a gold split, which means there's probably not the hugest amount of time save possible.
Yeah. And I need to gold by 2 seconds to sub 210.
Yeah, so I was going to say, he has to gold in order to sub 210 at this point. Like, right now he is 207 ahead of a 212.09.
I distinctly remember I was very good at still pressing the keys down properly, but my arm was shaking while I was holding like a directional key.
Yep.
Because despite being this far ahead, it is easy to make a mistake and lose it all at this point.
Let me tell you, there's nothing like being a minute up on Whir and then having to do Gavel skip to get the blood pumping.
Yup.
So this is a really funny story now that we're kind of in a little bit of downtime. During the race, Lass was saying something about how he wasn't going to do Gavel skip. He was considering
I was like, I don't need to do Gavel skip to Whir.
No, he doesn't, because Gavel skip only saves 20 seconds. So he was considering skipping it. And I actually did tell him it was a joke. I'll preface this by saying it was a joke. But I said I would delete his run from every leaderboard if he chose to not Gavel skip at this point in the run.
I think I remember something about coming to my house and punching me also.
No, yeah, I said if you ever consider not doing Gavel skip again, I'll come to your house and beat you up for it.
So
I swear Last has the highest consistency on Gavel skip out of us as well.
I have practiced. I run up and down my staircase like 3 times and then do 15 push-ups and then do Gavel skip to simulate being on a high pressure situation.
You don't.
I actually do this.
The funny thing is, the way he's saying it, I 100% believe him.
Because it gets your heart throbbing at that fast rate and you're feeling it pumping, and it's I was surprised when I did it on world record pace. I was like, that practice was exactly what I needed.
Last is truly committed to speedrunning Battle MMBN6, a true legend. I will also say, I agree that Last is definitely the most consistent of the BN6 runners at Gavel Skip. My main failure is usually right off the bat, but once I get going,
Yeah,
I'm usually
if I
fine.
don't get snagged on a wall, I'm usually good.
It's like, if I don't get caught by the first button, because I'm trying to make my movement too
Yep.
optimal, and
Yep.
I end up not stepping on the button, but I trigger the grass anyway.
I do that occasionally.
Yeah.
I'm usually fine.
I do that once in a while as well.
I do that way more frequently than anyone else.
For me, I think it's just like I'm really rusty every time I play BN6 now, and I just get caught on the walls a bunch in
Yeah.
that comp because it's awful.
Rust is a big thing in this game because there's a lot of actually pretty difficult tricks, Gavel Skip being one of them.
Yes, and very technical bosses. That when manipulating Dive Man around isn't that hard when you're used to doing it, because then you're used to dodging the torpedoes and you're used to selecting chips and where to aim them and you're used to fishing for counter hits. But trying to do that all at once when you aren't practiced is difficult. Also, in the run, it was about at this time that Risch said, "Oh, by the way, I figured out how to consistently make the fast cycle on this blue shark that's about to happen."
I told him afterwards because I got to this point just before he finished the run, but I figured out how to manipulate that blue shark. So you can't see it anymore. I don't know if we want to go back. If you want to go back, I could show you. Like,
All right.
do it.
Give
So
me
go
just a
back.
I mean,
right
I
when
know
you
how
pick
to
up the
do it
run.
as well.
pausing at that time, and we'll rewind a little bit.
So this is the way. I'll explain the way that I've been doing it. Okay. So pause it right, not here, right now. So that corner down in the bottom left of the screen right now, if you wait there until you can't see the red shark anymore, the blue shark will never appear because that baits the blue shark
Wait,
in such a
really?
way.
Are you referring to this corner here?
Where's your
We-
mouse?
we
Oh,
can't
you can't
see
see
your
my
mouse.
mouse.
I don't
The
see it on
the
Discord
stream can
stream.
see my mouse. Go check the
Let me
stream.
Bottom left corner of the screen right now, I think.
Yes. You're pointing at the right one. Yes. So
Very
that
good.
corner, I've been waiting there. That baits the shark in such a way that it ends up in a weird place that it will never come back in time. And on top of that, because at this point it doesn't matter if you're allowed to slip around, you can just catch right back up to the red
Yep.
shark very easily.
Brilliant.
Dude, I just get ahead of the blue shark, and it's still there, but I'm faster than it.
Oh no, I do this so that you never have to worry about the blue shark. And then you just basically slip up, down, all around.
That's super good.
But yeah, now that I've explained that, I don't have to worry about potentially hiding strats anymore because I haven't explained it to anyone.
Well,
But yes,
now,
I told him
now you have
after
to get a
this,
new record.
Right, there's literally like 3 seconds of time saved there.
Yeah, I've done that like a few times in runs since we've learned about how slipwalking affects that whole like comp in general.
Mhm.
We'll let Gavel Skip play out because Gavel Skip is fantastic. It's a shame that we don't have Last prepared with some Benny Hill theme music.
I
However,
agree.
that would probably get them VOD muted, but that's fine. I think a lot of us in the
What?
race at this point, it was
Pick up gun deals.
he made a small mistake. So you pick up the chip to get around that.
If you hit that on the wrong spot, you'll have to pick up the chip, and I'm practiced enough and made that mistake
Nah.
frequently enough.
You just gotta adjust.
You can adjust around it too, but that is an okay solution. It's better than getting caught by
Yes.
No,
like
all
no
or
doubt in
nothing.
my mind. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, there goes the counter hit. Okay.
Rip the counter hit. One small thing that a lot of people don't do, even like some of the more experienced runners, I know like Last and I think Erothaur and I have started doing this recently, is Judgment's pattern can be a little weird, where sometimes he attacks in different ways than you might expect. So basically, after he moves twice, I think Last Erothaur, maybe Erothaur, I don't know if he does, but we
I
all now
started
move.
doing that literally ages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always move into his row before he's about to attack, just in case he's doing the attack where he summons the books. Because regardless, he's gonna move into you, and you don't have to worry about it at that point. There's no reason not to do it. So small improvement for pretty much
that
everybody.
Typhoon's a good goalkeeper.
Yep. So this
Yeah.
is the last comp that I could lose significant amounts of time and possibly the world record in. And
No,
that
there
Typhoon
is-
hitting me off the bat.
There is a
Annoying.
high probability, not a high probability. There is
Yeah.
a non-zero chance that Last dies here because the game said no. Basically, all it is. He gets an encounter here, right? Doesn't have a nightmare.
There was a hole
There's
as well.
so much
I-
relief. There's so much relief at this point in the run, dude. Like,
Oh,
you don't
there was that
understand.
moment of terror though, because there
Yep.
was a hole on the enemy back.
To be fair, I knew immediately it wasn't the double mech.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
in
no.
the
When you know
top.
it's not the double
yeah,
mech,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
fine, right? Because you can't die.
You're
It's
not
like,
gonna
the run might
lose.
lose like 30 seconds, but at this point, I think Last is fine with that. Yeah, Last is getting
Ah,
trolled by
it's
these
like-
typhoons. He can't get the circle, and
I
he gets
can't
Oh
finish the
my
circle and I
gosh.
get knocked down.
Yeah. At this point, you actually, I knew where based on your position, you could have slipped back to the wall. It wouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, I should
Um,
have.
But like, you shouldn't have to worry about that as a backup. It's like,
They don't even
yeah,
give
these
me
typhoons have been
This is-
trolling, and these typhoons suck in this comp. The
that. I don't
clouds
even
are-
know where the other one went.
Yeah, it's like it's so
So-
poorly. All the clouds are so poorly
This is like-
positioned.
If you're on world record pace, you will get typhoons like that 100% of the time. I super agree with jacking up. By the
Yeah.
way. Do
Because-
not give the game the chance.
Yeah, just don't let it happen. Just don't let it happen.
So we definitely eat some time loss for that. But we got through it, and I don't think it was that much time loss.
Mhm. But anyway, in terms of the nightmares, like you can get a nightmare, you can't run away. You have to run away from it because you don't have swords. You can't deal with the fight. If you draw the fight where it's two dark mechs, you are praying that you don't run into the encounter glitch where you can't run away. You legitimately die after like 2-3 turns.
Element Man didn't even step on a grass panel to troll you with 1 HP.
Yep.
Easy fight.
Element Man's HP is in such a threshold that once he goes grass, it's actually like if he steps on a grass panel, he will regain just enough HP that you have to insert 1 extra charge shot. It's so unfortunate.
Yeah,
I was
fight
really
works
happy
out super well.
with that fire pattern because I was able to waiting behind that brick was actually fast, and I got to save an extra 100 HP.
So this is interesting. Yeah, you move back. Good call. All over. That fight was just beautiful in every way. It's a good call to move back. Technically speaking, the dragon could have moved into it and it would have died.
That would have
And
been real
killed everything.
fast. But
Yeah.
I didn't want to not
I
heat cross and try and hit
don't
the dragon.
think the dragons do fire contact damage.
They do.
they?
I can say
They
in
don't
the
trigger
race,
Elm Trap.
They don't trigger Elm Trap, but their bodies are still fire.
Oh, you got the
In-
black bomb draw. I love the black bomb draw on that
That's
fight.
so
Yeah.
nice, yeah.
I remember in the race, I actually did the same fight, but I didn't heat cross. So at this point, he was able to stand behind a block, which actually saves him 100 HP. Not jacking out here is the riskier strat, but it saves 5 seconds. This is interesting.
Oh, I've soft locked doing this before.
Oh, I didn't know you could soft lock.
It might have been a no bias emulator bug, but
I've done that strat a lot. The worst thing that
I
can happen
had-
is the sandworm can break the bomb.
I
which is-
had both sandworms
dark
jump
mech.
into the black bomb, like at the same frame that I exploded it, and the game was like, "Oh, help!"
The mech also can move back into it because of where you position the bomb.
Yeah, I haven't figured out my favorite place to put the bomb yet, and my goal was just to get it down somewhere.
I soft locked putting it in the top middle. I'd recommend not a middle panel.
So yeah. And at this point, Last is now so happy because he actually didn't die to Circus Man EX. Literally impossible, by the
Literally.
way.
Yeah, and at this point I glanced down at the time for my split. So we killed Circus Man at about 10:45 into the split. A good Gregar means I'm losing 20 seconds to my split time.
A perfect Gregar might barely be sub.
I don't
No.
think so. I think it would be like
a perfect Gregar is at least a minute.
Yeah.
Like it's like a minute on the dot almost. So you would be losing time to even his gold. So it would be like
so we're not
just
quite.
barely sub.
Yeah, it's you're starting the fight at. Yeah, no, definitely not. Ooh, this is the fastest.
the
Greg.
most interesting.
Yeah,
draw. Because
and I took
this-
white
Oh,
capsule.
white capsule.
the white capsule actually messes this fight up the way he took it. And you can charge it, so technically speaking, he shouldn't have taken
I should
it.
not have taken white capsule, but if he had been cooperative, it would have saved a cycle. So you can even get like faster ist, Gregor, via that.
Yeah.
I was actually super surprised by Elect Cross. It's like just Elect Cross is faster than fastest Greg.
And there you go.
It's crazy.
210,
That was a
25.
really good fight. That was fastest Greg.
No, that was.
It was not.
faster.
It was four buster shots slower
It
than
was like
fastest.
basically.
It was faster than faster though.
Yeah, it was like basically faster, but not quite fast. It was a bit faster than that.
2:10:25. This is final time.
Yep. We have some really good names for the different Gregar strats. I will quickly explain them. Fastest is where you draw M Boomer, and you're able to get 6 charge shots off as Heat Cross before you beast out. And then Gregar has to land on a grass panel once out of the 3 times that you get to attack him. Faster is where you draw M Boomer and he never lands on a grass panel, or you miss a charge shot or something like that. And then Fast Gregar is where you never draw M Boomer, but it's just still like the most consistently fast strat.
Yep.
They effectively line up to be when you kill them. So Fastest kills him right as he starts the tail attack. The Faster Gregar strat kills him at the end of that tail attack. You get 2 charge shots off in one. And then Fast Gregar kills him on the next attack, which is a Heat Breath or Elec Breath. I don't even know what it is.
So
Yeah.
we talked some about splits that were good and bad throughout, and Colonel and Gregor definitely had opportunities for improvement. We saw me fall off the cloud, and the Gregor fight wasn't the perfect one you can get, and Colonel obviously we dropped time on G-Beast, even Final Day there was an extra virus. But taking together like all the reasonable time save, spoilers, we can save another 2 minutes. You can actually, you can reasonably do 3. I think my sum of best is like a high 206 now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But there were some monster splits. That's definitely, I think, the fastest Element Man anybody's ever had, and probably
Yeah,
will ever
was that
see.
no encounter? I went to the bathroom like as you started the comp, and then I came
was-
back and you were fighting Element Man.
One encounter as Heatman throughout the entire split.
The only thing that's fast
Nuts.
is if you manage to skip that encounter's Heatman.
Which is
And
doable.
The thing is, it's really unlikely, but the problem is I've seen it happen twice at this point.
And I've done it once, yeah.
Yeah, last was one of those, Lurking was another, and it was really funny both times because they didn't ever see each other do it. They're just like, what the? How, what was that? You can do that? It's so ridiculous.
Sub 210 with Electros is still possible. Yes, certainly. Is anything about this reasonable? Yeah, there were some splits that were definitely just mediocre. Like Trainer
Yeah,
BBS
this
was
a
bad,
super reasonable run, I think.
and Dive Man was just mediocre.
Like
So-
maybe you lose. If you had slightly less RNG, you could lose like 30 seconds to a minute. Probably save most of that back by just having like no hiccups in your execution, because there was still very minor stuff throughout. You could pick up at least 30 seconds on that, I'd say. But it's really, really hard to play that consistently over 2 hours. So yeah, good luck.
Yes.
No, yeah, this is definitely an incredibly good run. Very good execution wise, and definitely had the RNG for the most part. Like the worst RNG was during Judge Man,
Mhm.
and maybe the Typhoons in the final split. And the G-Beast fight was pretty bad, but
Yeah, I like the G-Beast fight was the biggest time loss, and it was mostly RNG.
Yeah.
And then the rest was just like all pretty good. There's
Yep.
a little bit on train arrow, but like you got train arrow. It's important.
Yes.
Got trainer out, some like minor things, like 3 of the 3 things that can go wrong, 2 of them did go wrong. It meant a second turn fight instead of a 1 turn. There's like a dive man execution error with not getting the counter hit before the train arrow, but
Right.
again,
So
like,
perfect execution here would have been sub 210.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would say this is like the first run where we got train arrow, drew train arrow, and then had on average nice RNG for the rest of the run.
No, yeah, this was incredible because
Yeah, this is like what you at least would hope for like a good run.
Yep, I think that, like for example, my previous PB is a 2:11:30 currently, and that run, the way that I saw it was this was an average run with good execution. So this run improves on that with just better RNG and slightly better execution.
Well, and I'll caveat that by when we say an average run, we mean assuming you got and drew train arrow, which is a 1 in 10. So throw out 90% of your runs and then have an average run from there.
We say things like average, but we're assuming the run made it past heat cross to get to this point.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, 6 hours of resetting on average to get a run past heat cross?
Yeah.
Maybe more?
It can be a lot for sure.
And friendly reminder, this was all done during a race.
Yeah. I actually
and
like
this was a
hurt
race.
the other racers' race times because they stopped racing to watch me some.
Yeah, no, it was really funny. Kamari and I ended up getting really close on the race because Kamari was really ahead of me, but he started messing up Gavel skip while watching last. And I started like not focusing on my run because I was watching last.
A race after a race reset. Did you guys
Yes,
reset?
we did a race to TheLastAaoa because we were waiting on Kamari to get ready, where Risch got like a 10-20. He got and drew the mock gun. And then we started a race and we reset it like 5 minutes in because 2 of us got mock gun in Central 1. Another person got double encounter with a failed runaway in Central 2. Somebody messed up the old Stoves fight. It was just a disaster.
No, yeah, it was like the race was just ridiculous, and like I think I was actually having probably the best run at that point. And I was messing up like a tiny little bit, but then everyone else wanted to call for a reset, and I was like, you know what? This wasn't perfect. I'm down. Let's reset. And then we get last, just coming in, having a fantastic run.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I came into Rich's chat after the race ended, and like he's watching the credits. Oh, cool. How's the race going?
I was just like, yeah,
last got word. Like, what? So then I run over to last stream, like 2:10:25. Like, oh my god, he didn't just get word.
Yeah, minute 43 PB, 45-second.
Actually crushed it.
Oh, okay, so I think that pretty much talks about everything that we wanted to mention with this run. Last, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
Have fun pushing for sub 210, Risch, because I think you're the one who's gonna do it.
Soon TM.
There you go. No, it was super great to get a good run, and I shoutouts to practicing Gavel skip after doing some push-ups. I swear it helps.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that because I think I would die.
Training
But
regimen?
There you go.
Alright,
Like I said
well.
earlier, if this run intrigues you at all, or you just want to check out more Battle Network 6 speedrunning things, there's a tutorial available on YouTube. There's also a 2 scenario race tutorial, if that's something you want to look into. I have tutorials up on my Twitch page, that's TheLastAaoa, and you can come ask us questions in the TeamBN Discord, which Tara just helpfully linked in chat.
yeah, and probably the next time you see a BN6 VOD watch from us, it'll be sub 210.
Yep. I will say I highly recommend Erothaur's tutorial as a good beginner guide. Definitely helps go over the basics of like where to go, what to do, what is like the best way to handle things, and then Last's detailed like advanced guide is really good for helping to push times down. For example, I believe Kamari is currently holding the 4th place spot, and Kamari basically used that and has been getting really good runs. So would highly recommend checking out Last if you're ever interested in speedrunning Battle Network 6. That advanced tutorial is really good and has practically everything you'd ever need to know about improving your BN6 time.
All right, thank you both for joining me today. It is always a pleasure to have Risch around. He's very knowledgeable, and I super appreciate even the little things that you point out. So thank you, Risch.
No problem.
And Erothaur, you might not run this game all that much anymore, but you will always be my true rival. Back from when everything got started.
Indeed, I remember not long after that GDQ, I had a run that almost took it back as soon as I got home, and I got an encounter in Pavilion 4 that killed the run. And that's not even possible anymore. Can't get one there.
You can if you mess it up, but I
Don't
think
mess it
somebody experienced that recently. Maybe it was even Kamari, I don't remember.
Oh god. Those encounters are horrible, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I want to go back to BN6, so it's just such a time investment to relearn all the new stuff.
There's some awesome tutorials I hear.
So I hear, yeah.
I think that wraps things up. So, from all of us at TeamBN, thanks for spending your Saturday watching this world record review. New, fresh content hot off the presses. There will be more to come, I'm sure. In the meantime, drop a follow if you haven't already, and we will see you next week, probably, with something that Tara tells us is going to happen. Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back next week. TBD on the content. There's some BN3 runs that we could watch, but it depends on who's available, because it's mostly up to the commentary. So we may do another one of these, or we may like try and get back to doing actual runs or races. Sounds like BN6 races went fairly well recently. Maybe we could try doing that again. Or something new. If there's anything you want to see, feel free to message in chat or on Discord. Yeah, and we'll see you next week or in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. And Chaotic is streaming, so we're going to raid him, I think. And yeah, that's it. Amazing, speed random.